Hello. Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for coming to hang out with us. Present to you the one, the only, the amazing Allie Motta. Hi, Allie.
Hi, everyone. How you guys doing?
It's so
Great
nice
to
to
be
see you.
here.
Everyone has been asking for this. I've been getting requests like you can't even imagine. They wanted to see us together.
They
So
got
here we
it.
are. And I think we're streaming on both channels, are we? I don't
We
know.
are as soon as I hit a button and I think I've done it.
All right.
So now everyone should be able to see us. Hi, all.
We're here. We're here. So this is a crazy case, huh?
I mean, I've never seen anything like it. And I've spent the past 3 days going over re-going over all the evidence and the stuff, at least focusing on the taillight. And if I can't figure it out, I sure as shit can't see how a jury's gonna figure it out.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
sorry. Hey guys, I'm gonna apologize in advance. Melanie told me use my clean mouth. So I'm gonna try to stay on top of that.
That's all right. I have a lot of viewers who like to listen to my show without headphones with their kids in the room and like their
I get it.
parents who are 85, 90, and they're like, oh, they like it that you don't drop the F-bomb. And I'm like, I know it's hard sometimes, especially in a case like Karen Reed, but I do the best I can. So for those of you who don't know me that are watching on the Defense Diaries side, I'm Melanie Little. I'm a New York licensed attorney. I've been practicing law. I've been a trial lawyer on the civil litigation side for more than 25 years. And I did my law school and my undergrad in Colorado. So I also have ties to the Boulder region, SCO buffs.
And you did
And
a lot of accidents, right? And dog
yeah.
bites.
So in addition to, I also took on the Catholic Church for the
Oh, yeah.
victims and survivors of clergy SA here on Long Island, the real life spotlight cases. And those of you in Boston know that that scandal broke there all the way back in 2002. But in addition to that, I helped injured people rebuild their lives with regard to people who were involved in scaffolding accidents, plane crashes, train crashes, many, many automobile accidents and pedestrian knockdown cases and dog bite cases. So that's where I come to this, from the civil litigation trial lawyer side and the injury side. So for me, when I started looking at this case, it was the injuries that made me think that something was awry. So tell everyone from my channel a little bit about your background.
All right. So I'm Allison Motta, and I'm a criminal defense attorney. I've been a criminal defense attorney for a little over 20 years. I handle murder cases, big drug cases, all kinds of cases. And the I got into this though very late because we've sort of been doing a lot of Richard Allen, and there's been a lot of motions, and there's been a lot. So I'm doing, I still practice. Um, I do this defense diaries with my husband. It's really his baby, who was also a criminal defense attorney for 20 years. He is focusing all his attention here. And I'm sort of dual role because he got me into it. And then once you get sucked in, it's easy to fall. So I wasn't really paying much attention to Karen Reed. So I'm coming at this not knowing what a lot of people already know. And I know, Melanie, you've been really deep in it. So you probably knew all the angles and at least most of what was going on long before I did. So I just kind of jumped in with the emotion and lemonade kind of stuff and at least got a taste for the fact that something's not right. And I've tried to stay very open-minded. Look, I'm a criminal defense attorney, so I'm already open to, police corruption and police planning evidence. So it's not a stretch for me, but I'm trying to stay as open-minded as I can and, wait to hear everything in the courtroom. So, some people may think I'm more on the fence than I should be. But I'm coming at this from, especially in drug cases and murder cases and, anything that involves like forensic evidence and things other than like your cell phone or something otherwise identifiable, to the chain of custody, to the way I'm used to getting logs and evidence logs and knowing how they log things in and where it's supposed to go and, how it's supposed to be handled. And I've seen thousands of, Sallyport video, patrol video, police video, booking videos, all of those things. So, and obviously, I've never received, just in case anyone's wondering, I've never received a mirrored, reverted image video from any law enforcement, federal, state, county, whatever the case may be.
Good. I
So
want to ask you about that too. I
yeah,
want to talk about that because, you know, a lot of people are saying it was intentional on the prosecution side to show it that way, and they didn't clear it up. But yeah, we'll get to that. And we have so much to talk about. We could be
so
here for
much.
6 hours. But what I wanted to and that's why it's so great to have a defense attorney's perspective here. You know, somebody who does this every single day for a living and has been doing it for so long. And I think that I'm still waiting for evidence that Officer John O'Keefe, because they don't want to refer to him as a police officer for some reason, was actually in fact hit by a car. And I think that the biggest piece of evidence that they have so far shown us is the taillight. And I know you've done a deep dive into that taillight, so we're going to get to that in a minute. But so many people have asked the question of why the judge or why the attorneys are not having to state the grounds for their objections. So I wanted to go back to that hearing. There was a hearing held. This is the pretrial hearing, I think, that I pulled up. When both sides were looking to adjourn, this is April 25th. All right, so this was the pretrial hearing, and this is where the judge lays her ground rules. So I just want to show everyone what she said, and this is her rule. This is unusual to, I think, both of us, but we'll talk about it in a second. And this is where the judge kind of set out her rules for what this trial was going to be like. This was April 25th of 2024.
Ms. Gilman, are you willing to spend some time today? Thank you.
By the way, just Mr. Bates's defense, yes, he was supposed to come last Friday. He was told he couldn't come because he hadn't gotten permission from this court yet.
Okay.
We did not.
Well, that makes sense, frankly.
I just didn't want there to be a sort of a hanging chad where that's concerned.
Oh, the hanging chad. Yeah, that was a good
especially
reference.
where he didn't start out well.
Yeah, I like the hanging
Right.
chad part. So I want
Being
to
at counsel table during impanelment.
I understand that. And he's been told that that was inappropriate, and obviously.
This was, I don't know if you saw this, Allie, but they did not want the defense to be able to have their own AV squad guy. They wanted them to have to use the prosecution side. And this, you can see, this is the bigger courtroom. They were in a bigger courtroom. And there was a motion to move to a different courtroom because in this courtroom, the jurors, like 5 or 6 of the jurors, could only see the back of the witness's head.
I don't even know how they do trials in a courtroom like that.
So yeah, and they're like, well, we've been doing it this way for 100 years. And it's kind of like, isn't part of assessing the credibility of a witness actually seeing their face?
I mean, that's the entire reason that the appellate courts give the judge, who was able to not only hear, but also see, judge credibility, and they give more weight to their credibility determinations. You can't see the facial expressions. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that was crazy. And so you see how here also like the prosecution table is in front of the defense table.
Bob and I talked about that. We were like, and I think we asked, like, is there anyone else who practices out here? Like, how bizarre is that to make them look like they're actually an extension of the judge? And I've been in courtrooms in several states, including New York, but it was federal, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Illinois, Nebraska, and Indiana. And I mean, all over. I've never, ever, ever seen anything like this.
It's a crazy setup, right? So then they had to move to the smaller courtroom so that the jury could actually see the witnesses' faces. And so that means that it's so tiny in there that there's 10 seats for the, I'm calling it like a wedding, like the bride side and the groom side. There's 10 seats for the victim's family and friends, and there's 10 seats for the defendant's family and friends, and then there's 10 seats for media. And it's like first come, first serve. And it's very intimate. Like people are on top of each other. They have to shut off the fans when the witness doesn't talk loudly enough. It's insane.
Yeah, I've seen.
But
that.
here's her ground rules.
Obviously, would never happen again.
Now I'm dying to know what they did so bad that's never happened again. But I don't want to get off on
rules.
a tangent.
Only one counsel, whoever's doing the cross-examination of the witness, objects. Just one, not all of you. It's not a tag team.
That's normal.
So one person.
And that's not unusual, right?
No,
that's normal. Whoever's crossing the witness objects, right? Okay, so we'll agree with her on that. We'll put one on the plus side. Okay.
objects. If you want to approach the witness, you must ask permission.
That's normal, right? May I approach? Can't
Yep.
just go up there and jump on the witness.
Some are more laid back
It's
about it. It's very
sidebar. There will
standard.
only be one person talking again, and it'll follow with whoever does the examination. Many times I allow counsel to discuss things, and many times I call directly on maybe appellate counsel or counsel who's been the big law person. So you can ask me for permission for that, and no basis for your objection. You just simply object. That's it. And if we need to see you at sidebar, we'll see you at sidebar. But I don't want a whole litany of reasons why the testimony you think is inadmissible.
Okay. All right. I don't know if we're in we're in Massachusetts and maybe that's what's going on here. But in New York, there are judges who will literally, if you object, they will sit there and wait for you to state the grounds for your objection because they don't want to guess, number one. And number two, you're supposed to know the reason that you're objecting. So, what do you think? What say you?
I think it's absurd. And not only does the judge is going to wait till you give your basis. If they object, if the other side objects and I don't know what it's for and they haven't said it, I'm going to say, well, what was the basis, Your Honor? Because how do I know how to reframe my question or to adjust what I'm doing so that I can work around whatever magical objection they're thinking in their head?
Right.
But often judges will say no speaking objections. That does not mean no basis. That is almost every judge says that because us lawyers love to say objection, lack of foundation, this person wasn't there and they don't know how to determine this, and sort of like get a little extra info into the jury. So when they say no speaking objections, they do not mean don't speak your basis. They mean don't speak words after you speak your basis.
Right. Don't volunteer any more information or don't elaborate. Let's say, right?
Don't tell us why you think that objection of that basis is worthy of something. Just tell us what the basis is. But to say no basis, it's very bizarre. If it wasn't the judge's doing and the lawyer just did that on their own in a criminal case, the appellate court, I have seen it in appeals that I have read, said you didn't provide a basis. It's like you didn't object. This issue is waived for you.
Right. So how are they building an appellate record? It's almost like the judge has to guess or make her ruling. And then half the time she makes a ruling without a sidebar. So nobody knows what the basis for the objection was. And a lot of people who have been watching this trial and also a lot of the pretrial hearings with me, and we went over all the pretrial motions and the motions to recuse. I mean, it's insane how people have the impression that she's helping Lally by not making him state the basis for his objections because maybe he doesn't even really know why to object. I think a lot of times he objects because he knows the answer is not going to be good for him.
It's bizarre. And those of you out there on our stream that are listening, so based on what Melanie's just saying, she's basically doing what we do on the Richard Allen case. You've been doing all along on this case. Bob was even late to this case as well. So I'll keep an eye out for you guys with any special comments or questions that you want to pose to Melanie. But now what did we say before I just did that? What was
how she seems to be favoring Lally.
Oh.
But one other thing I just want to point out is for those of you who don't know is that Richard Allen is AKA the Delphi case. For those of you who don't know, I know that you guys have been covering Delphi extensively, and that's a crazy case too.
Yeah, and we've gotten kickback, I guess, same as you've gotten some for. I mean, you can't help that you notice right away that those injuries are not the injuries that I'm used to seeing in accidents or in dog cases.
Right.
And every lawyer and expert or professional that I have heard speak that has a lot of experience. I mean, I've done some car accidents, but nothing like I'm doing, nothing where I'm having to assess the injuries and determine the impact. That wasn't my bag, but all say this is like shockingly inconsistent with what you see in accident cases. So
yeah, especially in a low speed pedestrian versus Lexus accident at 24.2 miles per hour in reverse for 60 feet. What we know so far, we haven't heard from the medical examiner, but we've gone over so much stuff, public records and everything else, that from what we know so far, the only injuries below the neck to Officer John O'Keefe are those lacerations to the right forearm. I did a whole show on that. I brought in a canine expert dog trainer who had trained police dogs for like his whole entire life, who said 100% those are dog bites. Dogs latch, they pull, you pull away.
And
the only injuries below the neck are to the arm. So there's no torso injuries. There's no hip injuries, no leg injuries, no shin injuries, no knee injuries. And that's virtually impossible to be hit by a car and have a laceration to the back of your head that causes multiple skull fractures. And where's the blood? There's so much here that just makes the average person feel gaslit. I'm just going to say it.
Yeah, that's how Bob would say it too. And I actually, after you had told me about this, about your video before, I actually went and watched. I watched your short version. I think you've got a short version.
Yeah.
And then, because a lot of people do say that, well, how could it be, a dog bite if there's not something on the other side? And he explained all of that.
Yep. Especially if it's not a trained dog. Trained police dogs are trained to latch and hold. And so you will oftentimes see the bottom teeth. But an untrained dog, and I don't know, there's speculation that Chloe, who was a German Shepherd rescue, was a washout, like a police dog who didn't make it. And so if they're not trained to bite, they could just, and also Garrett Wing said, the expert that I had on my show, said that he saw, if you watch the long version of that video, that you can see some of the bite marks on his arm indicate that he may have been laying down at the time he was bit. And so that's a good segue into this. So everyone is asking about this motion that was filed on Friday, and there's a motion filed by the defense, and what they're trying to preclude the expert, or one of the experts, from testifying, and it happens to be the dog bite expert. So let me just pull that up for a second. All right, stop this one, bring up this one. So are you whispering?
Sorry, Bob came down and told me there's an issue that he's like, this thing's streaming twice. One says one has 1,000 people, one has like 90, and I had muted it, but then he unmuted it. So sorry.
Oh, I don't. Yeah, because I saw two of us at the top. I don't know. I have issues with StreamYard, and they don't want to talk to me because I don't have 750,000 followers. So when we get 750,000 followers, maybe StreamYard will help us a little bit. So in any event, the Commonwealth filed a motion, and I can't read the stamp on this, but it looks like June 6th, which would have been just a few days ago, which would have been Thursday. They addressed it on Friday, and they said that we're going to argue it tomorrow at 8:30 a.m.
That's going to be interesting.
Yes. So here's their issue. We don't have to read the whole thing. I think you guys went over this on your channel, right?
We did.
So, do you remember what it's about? Do you want to just
the first is overview? One of the issues, and I know that their issue is that they haven't been given enough information from the experts, and that they haven't complied with the criminal rule. And the rule in Massachusetts doesn't require reciprocal discovery until after the Commonwealth does it. But nonetheless, and Melanie's got something lined up to kind of expound on that. Nonetheless, they're complaining that they haven't gotten things timely, and that they haven't gotten enough information, that they're not giving them enough information, and that there was a new expert that dealt with was that the dog? I think that was the dog.
Let's talk about the dog one.
Let's
the dog
start
expert.
there,
because a lot of people, since they did that dog show so long ago, they're like, they need to call a dog bite expert.
So Lally's trying to say, well, the defense said that they weren't doing anything with the dogs, and they made me think this wasn't happening. So Melanie's got the receipts right here. Let's see if Lally is accurate.
Yeah, so let's first read the motion, because we didn't do the motion on my channel. So I just want to read like this paragraph. So here's the argument. This is the Commonwealth's motion. I have not seen a response filed by the defense yet. So they may not respond in writing. They may just orally argue it tomorrow morning. Commonwealth says, on May 21st of 2024, the defendant provided the Commonwealth with the curriculum vitae of Dr. Marie Russell, an expert witness not previously disclosed, on May 30th of 2024 during the 6th week of trial. Attorney Little provided the following synopsis about Dr. Russell. I want to break for a second to say that I am not related to Eliza Little in any way, shape, or form. It's just a very common name. We are not related. I do not know her. I've never met her. We have the same name, so you can the rumors can stop. She has reviewed the autopsy photos, grand jury testimony of Dr. Scorty Bello. Dr. Scorty Bello is the medical examiner who did the autopsy. The entirety of the autopsy report, all reports associated with Chloe's prior bite history, photographs of the items in evidence, and the UC Davis DNA testing results and evidence submission forms. She is expected to be called with focused testimony related to the right arm injuries sustained by Mr. O'Keefe. Dr. Russell will testify that the wounds and injuries on Mr. O'Keefe's right arm are consistent with an animal attack, namely teeth or claw marks, or a combination of both from an animal. She will also testify that these injuries are inconsistent with having been struck by a vehicle, road rash, or scratches from broken glass or taillight material. She will base her opinions and conclusions in part on having treated hundreds of patients in the ER with injuries sustained from animal attacks, including dogs. And then they go on to say no written reports or opinions from Dr. Russell were provided. And then
So
they
just
go
to
in.
speak on that part right there,
Mhm.
to me, and I mean, you do this in New York, and I don't know if it's different. Maybe there's more requirements in civil cases, but that is, he's provided what she based her opinion on. That's one of the typical requirements,
Mhm.
and the general basis of her opinion, and that she's basing it on her opinions and conclusions in part on having been treated. So she's just saying it's on her opinions and conclusions based on her knowledge. In my experience, if your expert has not provided a written report, you don't have to provide a written report. And I think she did provide an opinion. She provided an opinion that he wasn't struck by a car. It says it right there.
Right.
Wasn't struck by a car, no road rash, no,
So it's a summary of what she's going to testify to. And I would submit to them, or to you, to the judge, that that's enough. If she doesn't render a report in writing and she just tells you what her opinion is over the phone, that's her opinion. That's what she's going to testify to. Seems like it meets the requirement to me.
Would it fly
And
in civil law in your jurisdiction?
in civil court, in civil litigation, you would have to turn over the report. But in
Even if
criminal,
were they required to give you, so your experts are required to provide a written report?
yeah, typically in civil litigation, they do.
Okay.
But it's oftentimes they'll just testify about what the medical records say. So it's not, if it's an accident reconstructionist, typically they'll render a written report and you'll see it
Yeah,
and
I
just turn
think
it over. But
I
in
would,
criminal cases, it's not always that, because criminal trials are fluid, right?
yeah, I mean, my experts always ask, do I want a written report? Like they don't have to provide one. Now, obviously, if they're doing something that technical, like I'm sure I know that one of their experts, they did provide a 10-page written report for. I don't remember which it was for, but this person doesn't need to write a report that she's going to say what he just said.
Exactly. And sometimes you don't want the report because sometimes the expert is going to refute what the experts who testify before her say.
Exactly. Exactly.
So it says here that, again, it's in the judge's discretion to preclude the expert. And that's what they want the judge to do in this case with regard to this expert and some other experts, including the FBI hired accident reconstruction experts. But I just highlighted this part. During a final pretrial hearing on February 15th, 2024, when asked by the court whether there was any dispute about a canine's involvement or canine DNA, Attorney Yannetti indicated no, and that the defense was not pursuing such claim. Okay. So I pulled up the receipts because I'm like you, like I like receipts. We're the fact-based channel. We're lawyers. We want to see the
Right.
receipts. So before I even pull up the receipt on that, they say in light of this, on May 15th of 2024, the Commonwealth called Terry Kuhn, a forensic scientist, to testify that there was no canine DNA present on the samples provided to her forensic laboratory. Well, they were going to call her anyway.
Right. I was going to ask you, am I missing something? Because I don't understand how he is saying in light of this. It
Right.
seems she would not have been an expert who could ever have testified whether the injuries were actually from a dog. She could only say whether there was dog DNA there.
Exactly. So let's pull up the receipts on that,
Yeah. Let's see,
as
Lolly.
we
Is
like
that
to
what happened?
do.
Is that what happened, Lolly?
Yes, because his memory seems to be a little exhausted.
It does seem to be exhausted.
His memory is exhausted. Oh my God.
He
I
might have
loved.
wanted to refresh it before he put it in a pleading where he is, by signing it, verifying that all the facts in there are true and correct.
Well, you would think, right? Wouldn't you? Wouldn't that be like just the basics? I'm starting to wonder about so many things in this case. And look, he's like I said, he's like a one-man band. It's like he's playing the accordion, the harmonica. He's got like cymbals between his knees. He's like the one-man band here. Where did this go? Is this the right one? All right, talk for a second.
All right,
It just
so
like disappears on me.
so one of the other things that the state's complaining about, the Commonwealth's complaining about, is like the details. And what Melanie read was one of the witnesses that they provided details to. And in the pretrial hearing, Mr. Jackson was like, well, I think I complied with this. I provided everything, but I'll give him a call. I'll kind of expound on it with him. And there wasn't any real clear, assertion other than Lolly sort of like, but I want to know why or more, and Jackson pretty much was saying, I've kind of told you everything. And it seemed like they agreed they'd talk casually about it. So I don't know. He's kind of coming out of left field, like they were supposed to do X, Y, and Z, and they didn't. So now punish them.
Right.
And I think it's about, he's going to hopefully lose some of his credibility with the judge after he revisits what you're.
Found it.
All right.
Found it. All right. Let's see.
And then I did see. Okay, good.
All right. So this is the motions hearing from February 15th of 2024. And this was this was the day that they wanted to put over the trial. The trial was initially supposed to start in March. And the judge has been pushing this train down the track like you can't believe. And the Commonwealth still had not fulfilled its its basic discovery obligations of automatic discovery. I mean, it took almost 2 years for the defense to even get a hold of the clothing to be able to test it. And the hair, they're gonna talk about the hair during this hearing in February of 2024. So I rewound it back to the place where they're just starting to talk about the DNA. And the DNA they're going to talk about first is the Bodie Labs DNA, which is that apparent hair, or the hair apparent, as we've come to call it.
Great. All right, so that moves us to the DNA, Bodie technology. Let's talk about that first. Mr. Lally, that was to be expedited. What's the information we have from them?
So that is really the only issue, and the reason that it's a joint motion to continue from my perspective. I don't oppose the motion, but the reason that it's a joint request from my end. So where we stand, I spoke with someone from Bodie yesterday.
Okay.
And really, what I had said to Mr. Yannetti, but it didn't get encapsulated within the motion, is they're the two sort of different sets of testing.
It's not in my motion.
The hair sample with the mitochondrial DNA testing, and then there's the taillight evidence with regard to the troopers' samples that they submitted as well. So with reference to both of those samples, I anticipate initially what I was told, even with the 8-week rush expedited return, was sometime around the 3rd week of March or something like that.
Okay, the 3rd week of March in 2024. This occurred January 29th of 2022. They're still fumbling around here trying to get this apparent hair tested. And now they're telling the court not going to be ready till like the 3rd week in March. And the trial, I think the original trial date, you guys can correct me in the chat if I'm wrong, was something like March 16th. And then she wound up giving them a month. But
that's what I was going to ask you. Like, sometimes they do things like that super close. And like, obviously, I'm always trying to give pushback. If it's a case like this, I am saying ahead of time, I'm telling the judge, if I'm the defense, well, I want it pushed even further because now, of course, my expert needs to look over it. But yeah, I see your point. How's he complaining about things he's getting late when trial's around the corner and they don't even have DNA evidence yet?
Mhm. Yeah, they've not connected this hair to. I don't even think they connected it to a human at this point, but
I,
they have not definitely not connected it to John O'Keefe, and that's going to be one of their salient points of why that he actually was hit by her car. Although if he's around her car for 2 years and they live together, his hair could be all over that car anyway.
all over it. And that's could be one of the reasons. I was thinking maybe the defense wasn't so concerned with it because in their minds it was planted and they knew it was coming back to him. But
Mhm.
it also could very well be I mean, he's like you said, she's around him too.
Mhm.
So it doesn't really, I'm just thinking about that C, that little moving C.
The hair, the apparent hair.
Oh
So
Lord.
they're on the topic of DNA, and this is when they bring up the canine DNA a little bit further into this.
And so that was in part why
It's a lot more than 8 weeks.
well, it's 8 weeks from the date that they receive it. So and there were some delays in regard to that as far as whether or not there was going to be any observation of testing and collecting the samples, submitting the samples. So
Collecting was
it's
hard.
been a bit of an argument.
Yeah,
It's
so
been
hard.
arduous. It's been
so hard.
really,
And then
really hard.
Bodie Labs wanted something like $10,000 for the defense to watch their testing or something crazy like that. And then
To
they were going to
watch?
also, it was going to, what do they call that when it degrades the sample to the point where it can't be tested again?
Right. So correct. So in that situation, then the other party has the ability to send their expert in to watch what they're doing.
Mhm.
And I don't even know where a lab gets off doing that. If the state chooses to use a third party lab that has that requirement, I'm surely, say caught myself.
You're so good.
I'm surely
$20,000, Mindy said. They wanted to charge the defense $20,000 to $21,000.
right. I'm arguing that state has to cover that. The
Mhm.
state has to cover that. It's their lab choice.
Right.
And they're going to deplete all the DNA. This is literally what the courts have put in place in that scenario so that they can deal with the fact that it's, all the DNA is going to be gone. You can't test it twice. So now your expert gets to watch while it's being tested. It's the only thing they have. It's not a fair, I don't think, true remedy, but it's the closest that they've got.
Right. I mean, the amount of money that they've spent on experts already is insane. Let's go on to the canine stuff. Oops.
It was processed, but the point, the further point of clarity that I received yesterday is that they expect it's not a definitive due date, but their expectation is that testing should be completed the first week of March now, with regard to both sets.
Great. That's
My
expedited.
issue, though, sort of ancillary to that, is, and I'm not
Why I
faulting
waited 2
counsel
years to
for
submit
this,
it in the first place.
but I have no reciprocal discovery in this case.
Is
and
no
my
reciprocal
expectation
discovery.
is that I may be receiving some, if not a voluminous amount.
Okay, you have no reciprocal discovery, but you're telling the court that you still don't have the results back from the hair that was on the car that's going to maybe prove that maybe prove nothing, but maybe prove something, but you still don't have the results back, but you're now going to whine about not having reciprocal discovery.
Which, as Melanie noted earlier, is not obligated for the defense to turn over until the state, the Commonwealth says, all right, I've given you everything.
Mm-hmm. And they have to file what's called a certificate of compliance, right? And he didn't do it. So
I'm just surprised that they schedule matters for trial before in Chicago, they're more on top of the as opposed to like the suburban courthouses that I'm often in, unless it's a big enough case for me to go down to Chicago and handle. But when I'm in Chicago, they are on top of the state as to is discovery complete? Is discovery complete? They can be sanctioned then. They would never even contemplate scheduling a trial if discovery is not complete. And I don't even know what kind of motions I'm filing until discovery is complete. How do I know I don't want to exclude this evidence that I don't have yet, or file a any number of motions and things,
or a DNA expert to refute this hair when
Right.
you don't even know what the results are going to be.
Right. And
So
if she
ridiculous.
expected the defense to act promptly in this scenario where the state's not done yet and she ends up giving them a couple of weeks, I hope she'll expect the prosecution to have, had other people in the office working on it while you're doing this. You don't need to be the one, getting the experts or
Exactly. And everyone's saying, oh, the defense team has 3 people on their team. They have 3 people. He only has 1 person. It's a district attorney's office. They have a whole team of people. Just because he's the only one who ever says anything in court doesn't mean they have an entire office and team of people behind them. It's crazy.
Right. I'm not even reading our
can't
chat.
file.
So.
What's that?
I can't both focus here and like sometimes I'll go over and like read the chat, but so I don't even know if at least I see one of our people here saying Lolly has a whole office.
Yep.
Certificate of compliance and a motion for reciprocal discovery under the rules, as the court is well aware, until I've completed my discovery obligations, which I won't be able to do until we get to that first week of March when I get the DNA reports. So that is my reason for looking to push the trial date out a little bit in order to be able to satisfy my discovery obligations, file the motion for reciprocal discovery, and give counsel at least some reasonable amount of time to provide whatever it is they have, of which I just don't know.
All right. So while we're talking about DNA, Mr. Yannetti, do we need to be concerned about canine DNA? Where do we stand with that?
No, I think this is the only outstanding DNA issue.
Okay. So, all right. So we're not dealing with canine
No.
DNA?
I was saying, just remind that little part.
right.
Let's hear it again.
Yeah.
Did he say anything that Lolly said he said?
Specific to canine DNA. Okay.
Very, very
Outstanding
specific.
DNA issue.
Hold on.
With that. Need to be concerned about canine DNA. Where do we stand with that?
No, I think this is the only outstanding DNA issue.
Okay. So,
Wow.
all right. So we're not dealing with canine
No.
DNA. All right. All right. So Mr. McDermott will.
And that's it. That's all they said. We're not dealing with canine DNA. And he said, no. That doesn't mean you abandon your theory that this may have been caused by a dog. It just means we're not gonna refute the fact that this expert didn't find any canine DNA, because our argument's going to be the chain of custody on the clothing was so horrific, and the clothing was wet and maybe moldy. And doesn't evidence being wet cause a degradation of any DNA that may or may not be on the clothing?
Absolutely can.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just not what he said at all. He wrote an emotion that Lolly was led to believe by that exchange that the defense abandoned what did he say? Not anything.
Said,
to do with the dog. Was like,
when asked by the court whether there was any dispute about a canine's involvement or canine DNA, Attorney Yannetti indicated no, and that the defense was not pursuing such claim.
Oh, so, I mean, I don't care what side of the argument you're on this. That is as disingenuous as one can get. Now, maybe Lolly was having his, like, I had a hopeful, instead of wishful thinking, I had wishful memory. But you don't put that in a pleading without maybe getting a copy of the transcript. Or
going to YouTube and looking it up on Boston 25 like we just did, and replaying the hearing. How about that? You don't even need. Here's the beauty of YouTube now, is that you don't need to order a transcript anymore, because you know how expensive it is, right? To order a transcript on a rush. If it's on YouTube, you don't need to. It's right there. You've got a video receipt of it, dude. It's not that hard.
Yeah,
Charlotte's DNA evidence isn't the route they're going. That's all he said.
I mean, your point's well taken. He could have had, if not him, he's busy. We know he's doing this alone. Someone in the office go back, listen to it, and see what exactly was said, because there wasn't even a hint. I was expecting there to be some sort of ambiguity, like, oh, I see where he leaned into that, and that's how he got this no involvement of a canine, no involvement. But there wasn't even a hint. There wasn't even like this. It couldn't have been more black and white.
And it was in the context of the DNA with regard to the hair, and then the DNA with regard to the canine. It doesn't mean you abandon your theory of how those wounds happened.
And the judge didn't say, so do we need to be concerned about a canine? That's not what she said.
Right. She said canine DNA.
Right.
And Tommy
And
says
his
they
answer
tested the
was,
clothes, not the wounds for DNA. That's right. And we
Right.
heard the way the forensic tech actually swabbed the clothing, and she had never done that before. And she swabbed it with 2 Q-tips each, all 9 of those areas, using the same 2 Q-tips, put them in an envelope and sent them to the canine lab.
and
Canine
then
DNA lab.
as far as the motion is concerned, I read one of the cases that Lolly cited in his motion, and exclusion of the witnesses is reserved for the most egregious situation. And there's a litany of things the judge is supposed to consider doing before she considers that. In a million years, I shouldn't say in a million years, I will be surprised if the judge were to straight out exclude their witness. Now, I suspect that the defense is going to have an answer to this, and especially based on what you just read and the receipt that you just brought wasn't the receipt that Lolly was looking for. Like that they're going to have a different opinion of where this expert came from and why they're just hearing about it, and even probably if he's ever heard about it. And so even if the judge were to yell at them, a little bit, I mean, she's already had this jury, wait a while. There's like a day off. She may say, Lolly, figure it out on Thursdays or whichever the day off is.
Changes weekly. It's like a summer schedule. It's like I got to get to the Cape for the weekend schedule.
Right. But I'd be surprised if they excluded any of the witnesses. And she also talked about voir dire, saying, I know we don't want to have to voir dire. Or voir dire.
Yeah. No, I say voir dire too.
Okay. So that's to me, that's her default backup. Like, oh, well, now you got to inconvenience us all and we have to do voir dire.
But they've voir dired how many witnesses already in this trial? Lank. I mean, they've voir dired some of the video evidence, some of the group text messages with some of the witnesses. I think Brian Albert. And here's the other thing about that you may not know about the pretrial nonsense that went on here with regard to the dog. So Chloe, the family pet, had been the family pet for something like 7, 8, 9 years. Chloe is all of a sudden rehomed by the family at the same time that the state grand jury has convened to upgrade Karen's murder charges. So the dog mysteriously is rehomed, and then the whereabouts of the dog were withheld from the defense. The defense had to go down to like the Canton Animal Control to get some of the records, and then found out that the dog was rehomed and that the dog had a prior bite history, because they asked about bite history and they were told no. Then it turns out that the dog did bite 2 more people after this incident. I've heard people say that once a dog gets a taste of flesh, that they bite more and more and more. I don't know whether that's true or not. Perhaps this dog bite expert will be able to tell us. But the 2 women that the dog bit are on the witness list for the defense. And then the defense was misled as to the whereabouts of the dog. They said, we don't know where the dog is. But when Nicole Albert got on the stand, he said, I know where the dog is. In fact, I called the breeder and I rehomed it to a farm in Vermont. She kept calling the dog it.
I honestly, Albert did too. I saw, because I haven't been watching all of it. Some days I go on with Bob and Jay. They're doing it. It's not Jay and Not So Silent Bob from The Shaming of Jay. And then sometimes I get on. So I saw Brian Albert and I'm like who calls their family pet an it? I mean, it's like he is so detached from that dog. And maybe because sometimes Bob and Jay have a guy named Jack on who does like language, sort of the way other people do body language. He does it with real language. He may have, I don't know if they've asked him about this, but to me, it speaks of such a level of detachment that it actually, might lean towards that's the reason he's so detached from it, is because that the dog was involved in this.
Distancing language, right? I think I've heard that expert on Bob's show before, and on your show. And I think that's what he calls it, like distancing language. Like, so then Nicole gets on the stand and she says, I know where the dog is because I met the woman halfway from Vermont and exchanged the dog. And I know exactly where the dog is in case it was ever needed for anything in the future. And then I think it was, I forget who was crossing her, but he was like, wait a second, you know where the dog is? Did you tell the prosecution? Did you tell Lally where the dog is? And she said, yeah, I think I did. So that's going to come back to bite them. Excuse the pun. But
Right.
like, oh, really? So you know where the dog is in case the dog was ever needed for a comparison sample, perhaps, of DNA, because there were no tissue samples ever taken from John O'Keefe's arm, ever.
Yeah,
No
I've heard
swabs were
that.
taken and preserved. No tissue samples were taken and preserved. So the only thing that they tested was the clothing. So I don't see how she can preclude the dog bite expert
Right.
this late in the
And
game.
you don't get the DNA from scratches of the dog anyway.
Right.
So it doesn't take scratches out of the realm of possibility. Look, I don't know. Was it the dog? Wasn't it the dog? You know, I don't know, but it just doesn't look like it's consistent at all with a car accident or scratching yourself on the, I mean, did the tail light explode? Was there a bomb in the tail light?
Mhm.
I mean, then maybe shards of glass are scratching all over you. But
Right.
is he rolling around back and forth around, of course, so that he's hitting various pieces of glass and it's cutting through the shirt? And when I was looking at the
Puncture
holes in that,
holes.
it did look like puncture holes. I did think that when I was looking at it, I was like, you know what? Those kind of, because I don't know how when you cut the clothes off, you cut them off in an emergency. So that's
Mhm.
being hastily done. You've dumped it on one floor. It didn't go into a bag even from that floor. Then it got dumped on another floor, but there are particles embedded in it. Again, was there an explosion?
Right. And then I remember the I forget which forensic tech it was who said she scraped the debris off the clothing. I think it was, I can't remember. I can remember what she looked like, but I can't remember her name. It wasn't Ashley.
It was
Wasn't,
before
maybe it
Ashley.
was Maureen.
Yeah.
She
Maureen
scraped it,
ate.
but she doesn't remember seeing any plastic pieces in there. And then she scraped both shirts together and put all the debris into an envelope and like sent it off somewhere. We haven't heard from whoever analyzed it yet, but
I'm going to say that witness, I think that if the judge would have allowed her to answer the question, if she thought that, that, I mean, she was pretty honest. Like, she's like, no, I very easily picked that piece of glass up, and that hair was laying precariously there. And I had no difficulty getting it out. I mean, she wouldn't say if it moved or not, but she was essentially saying she didn't think it was rested flat, like that it was even flat. She just couldn't say that it moved. She's like, I can't tell if both sides are up or only one side's up, but I mean, there's just a piece of glass sitting there.
yeah.
Bob
And
Bob told me about that, and I went back and pulled up the picture, and I was like, it really is sitting there.
I think Jackson said it was precariously perched. Precariously
Right.
perched. And then it turns out that among all the glass fragments that were found on the bumper, only one of them matched the cocktail glass. So is their theory going to be that the cocktail glass caused these wounds to his arm? Did
It's
that jump
crazy.
up? And I mean, I don't get it. I don't get it. But let's look at some of these super chats and then we'll talk about the tail light a little bit. Andrew says, thanks, Andrew, for your super chat. I'm in the UK. If Karen's acquitted, can she claim her lawyer costs back? If she has a
Not-
civil case for violation of her civil rights, she could.
She
As
could
it-
for some kind of malicious prosecution. It's very, very hard to prove. In the US, it's not like an acquittal equals you get your money back, because
Mhm.
it's not the equivalent to being innocent. But I would never suggest someone do it. It's like your whole life was spent on one side and now you're going to go through it all again. But if it's so egregious, just
Well, if it's
bury
shown
the money.
that there was some sort of corruption or planting of evidence, if that's shown, then she's
Yeah.
got a violation,
Yeah,
a
civil
case
rights
for
violation.
violation. Yeah, and that could be an element of her damages in that case. So thank you to Jen Del Rio for gifting 5 Defense Diaries podcast memberships.
Oh, thanks, Jen.
And Charlie, and another one of your members, Charlie Lynn, gifted
All
5
right.
memberships. Oh, and thank you, Wyke Knox Libe, for your $20 super sticker. You're so very generous. And here's another one for you, Allie.
All right. Thanks, Shiraz. I know Bob calls her an all the time giver.
And she gifted 20 for 10 for me and 10 for you. Thanks, Shiraz. That's
Nice.
awesome. Look at that. We have so many crossover viewers. We're cross-pollinating. On top, thanks for your super sticker. Mama Fours Rose, thanks for your super sticker. And Smith, thanks for your super sticker. And here's another one. Oh, I think we did Jen already, unless she gifted twice.
Thanks, Jen.
And BB, thanks for the super chat. Melanie, they need to bring Chloe back from Virginia. I think she's in Vermont. If that's where she is, and do a replica of her paws or nails to match up against John O'Keefe's arm.
That's interesting.
Might be a little late for that. Similar EXP. Shot you a super sticker over there, Allie.
All right.
And Vincent, thanks for the super chat. I think the blood-soaked concrete dug up from the basement of 34 Fairview is now used to fill in the pool that I think it's Tim Albert, but you say Chris Albert conveniently had filled in. Yeah, so I don't know if you know about that. But there are 6
something
Albert
about it.
brothers.
Who is the one that's telling everyone about that there was, or is that just an assumption that it was blood soaked? Because I thought that Jackson, Yannetti said that like there was someone who told them that happened, like that there was blood soaked in. Is that accurate? That's
We don't know
someone told them
yet,
that?
but I don't think it was just the floor that was replaced. I think they actually jackhammered up the concrete. That's what Vincent's referring to here. It wasn't just as if, we pull up the rug and replace the rug. It was like a jackhammering situation. And since then, they've sold their house. But we know the defense got back into the house with the new owners because they showed this video. I don't know if you saw the video where they go into the basement through those bulkhead doors in the backyard. It's like this kind of creepy video. And then remember how they zoomed in on the doorknob? And I'm thinking, did they find his blood on the doorknob? Or is that going to be like an explosion of testimony during the defense case?
Well, they would have had to turn that over. So the defense, if the defense is going in the face of something like that, I'm already shocked, to tell you the truth, that the judge is allowing this whole thing with the Sallyport. It's why is there not some kind of outrage? Like that's the kind of thing that gets me.
Oh, we are
really
outraged.
Worked out.
But we are outraged, Ellie.
But why isn't the judge seem outraged? Gets outraged at other stuff.
They're still talking about it. I think they ended on that, so it's going to pick up tomorrow with the Sallyport video. We'll talk about that in a sec. But here's another one for you.
Oh, thanks, Meg P.
You just hit 20K?
Apparently. Yay.
Just now? Yay,
yeah.
Congrats.
Bob told me we were like 95 away when we went in there. Thanks, guys.
Awesome.
Now Bob's celebrating somewhere. He's doing a little dance.
Tracy, thanks for the 10. Left eye Sallyport forgets we all have eyes and ears. The YouTubers remember the disaster he's presented thus far. Yep. We've been there for it. Thanks, Bruce, for the 5. They allowed Trooper B, Buchanan. We've learned to pronounce his name properly because he told us he was not Michael Proctor. And They told us that his name is Buchanan. They allowed Trooper Buchanan to testify to the arm damage. That's right. Did you see that testimony?
I did. And she was keeping him on a tight leash. Then she gave him a rope and he went off half-cocked. That was absurd.
Letting him testify like a medical expert.
Right. I was calling him the expert of everything. He was the expert of everything.
Yeah, because they're trying to keep Proctor off the stand, but I don't think they're going to be able to.
Right.
Megan, thanks for the 5. Have you seen the photos of Allie and her fiance with a German Shepherd? Speculation is it's Chloe. I have seen those, Megan. I showed them on a stream one day. Then a lot of people were saying that's not Chloe, but it does look like they have a very similar dog. Jen Lee, thanks for the 5. I'm ready for the booze, but the pig DNA makes sense. He was a cop. I'm so sorry. I know I did say that. I think too. A lot of people say that dogs chew on pig ears. So
it's also in a lot of dog food is pork, other than, you don't need, because when he asked that, like about the pig ear on Jackson did, I was like, why is he limiting it to pig ears? There's literally pork in almost all dog foods. My dog does. Sometimes we keep the same formula, but switch out pork, beef, fit, and almost all dog snacks have some sort of pork in it. It's
You know what else could have pork in it? Like sausage, calzone. They were eating calzones that night from D&E Pizza. I wonder if they analyze his stomach contents. That would be very interesting to me. We'll hear that
Did
during
they?
the Emmy.
I mean, they haven't analyzed anything. I'd be shocked.
Right. Because if he had calzone in his stomach, that would prove that he went in the house. I'm just saying.
Right. But your point, I mean, you told me that when we were speaking. I did not know that about the calzone.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, absolutely could be that as well.
They ordered calzones from D&E's for little Brian's birthday.
And it's not Jackson, or was it Yannetti? I forget. Jackson, whichever one did that cross, wasn't quick enough on his feet. He could have thrown that in there too.
Yeah.
It's not only dog treats, it's, in Italian
Calzones.
sauce, calzones.
Thanks, Tom CPU, for gifting 5 memberships. For those of you who don't, go subscribe to Tom CPU. He does court streams. He'll go to the courthouse in the morning before court, and he's got Karen and the team arriving. He talks to the supporters outside, and he always boots on the ground. Alistair Crowley, thank you for the 10. And Kitty, thank you for your super sticker. And Renee, thank you for your super sticker. True Crime Junkie, thanks for being a member for 4 months. Yes, I live here now. Outrage, love you all. We're all living here. Look at Trauma ICURN says, look at this smoke show, cool. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much. Albert, thanks for the 5. Sallyport video shows it being daylight on one side while it being dead of night on the other side when driving the SUV in.
Now, I don't know if she means the flipped, like the literal other, the other video from the other angle, or because my understanding, and someone on the chat off to correct me if I'm wrong, is that you've got the January 29th video, which is the inverted one. And then the dark one coming from the other angle is February 2nd. And you'll notice I think they actually did move the car around between those 2 times, possibly as well. But it's not, at least my understanding of the one that's really dark, unless she might be talking about what she actually sees outside. But the dark video was from February 2nd, like before.
Right, because that's when the forensic tech was in there, dealing with the hair and all that stuff. I'm not sure either. Andrew says, this is fab. We don't get live court coverage in the UK. We don't get it in New York either. There's no cameras in courtrooms in New York. So is the Delphi trial going to be televised?
I don't think so. Not as of now. She's had one hearing that was televised, and it was the one hearing that where she planned to just ream the defense and just totally tear them apart. And she's like, all right, I'm going to approve your cameras in the courtroom today. And she knew damn well what she was going to do. I mean, you're going to be, if you've been so into this that you haven't paid a lot of attention to the Delphi case, you are going to be, just from a lawyer perspective, I'm not even talking about guilt or innocent, just from a legal perspective and what the judge is doing. She had his lawyers removed. It had to get up to the Supreme Court to get his choice of counsel back on the case. I mean, there's a lot of correlations here. Luckily, Karen's out, but where he's in custody and not even in jail, he's in a prison. And he's been in solitary for years, having, now his mental health has deteriorated from it. And the rulings on that are just crazy.
I'll have to do that with you one day. You can teach me about that.
Yeah.
Look at this. Charlie Lynn says, we are the opposite of the mean girl types we've seen in this trial. We're trying. We're going to get attacked for this. I know everyone's watching. All the haters are watching us. But you know what? I feel like I'm on the right side of this one. How about you?
I think so.
Tom CPU, thanks for the 10. Thank you for diving into this. It's a tragedy of justice if there was a definition. Sacco and Vanzetti version to free Karen Reed. Sacco and Vanzetti were tried in that same courtroom, same courthouse in 1920.
Wow.
All eyes on Delphi. This one's for you. You can read it.
Does Karen Reed have a tort case against law enforcement and local government, maybe against the Alberts as property owners? Seems like these shady parties will have to pay to avoid secrets going public. Again, it sort of ties back to what we talked about before. If all of the worst things that everyone's suspecting are actually provable, and again, the defense here obviously doesn't have the burden, but the burden in a civil case is lower. The presumption. But they need to have more than just supposition, which can create reasonable doubt. and we haven't seen it yet, but I expect that we are gonna see it. I mean, with this, even with the flipped video, I think you would need to you use that to like pile on as far as against law enforcement, and it would be a very strong, like, I have no idea if they plan to call someone about it's just so bizarre. But uh, even the fact that he put it on and did not ask any questions to point it out is there. I mean, that right there, it's huge. So they have that as something that they can't take away. They can't explain. There is no explanation for why that would have happened, and why, even if somehow the prosecution didn't know about it because he's inept, that the witness, the
Right.
law enforcement
Mhm.
officer, he knew, and it definitely shows that he was prejudiced, that he was intentionally slanting his testimony to avoid saying that, and that could all help in a civil case, but they are hard.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna see how it plays out in the end, you know? I mean, I think it's too early to really say at this point.
Right.
You wanna talk about the taillights since you did so much work on that and the
I know.
spreadsheet and everything.
I know. All right, so I'm gonna start with I was focusing on the testimony of Ashley, who reconstructed the taillight. So I, as I've said, don't follow every day. So I did not see the day before, and I didn't even know that there was testimony that somebody collected taillight on the 29th. So once I was told by our fabulous viewers that was a thing, now I went back and I had to start looking at everything, because the evidence bag portion, the seal and the label that went in, were all dated after January 24th, and there
29th.
was 29th,
Yeah.
and there was no testimony whatsoever that any pieces discovered January 29th were involved in the reconstruction aspect. So I started with, and this is what I want um, to play for everybody. This is Lolly's direct examination of Ashley, and she. Uh, I don't think I had. I thought I booted it up, but I've got it right here. Hold on.
No worries. Look, Ellen Victoria Olson No says we are awesome. Thanks, Ellen, for your super chat.
Okay, 622.
P. Lola's mom says Wild Bev had seen the Sallyport video before Thursday. Had she?
She who had
The judge. I don't know.
didn't seem that she did, because not that version, because I want everybody remember that pre-trial, and I rewatched it last night, pre-trial at the motions in Lemonade, there were 40 minutes missing. 40 minutes. The video did not start until something in the 50s, like 6:50 something or 5:50 something. And what Lolly's answer wasn't, "Oh wait, you must have the wrong one. There is one that starts sooner." His answer was, "Well, this missing 40 minutes, I don't think it's that big of a deal because it's motion activated."
Right.
That was
Right.
his answer. And then all of a sudden, what was it? April 24th, 2024?
After
Wow,
jury selection started, yeah.
right. They found this, they found a video that doesn't have 40 minutes missing anymore, but just has, like
Lots of
spliced
jump
minutes,
cuts.
right? Spliced minutes in the middle here and there.
We
But
started
this,
calling it the magical mystery Sallyport because things would just magically appear and the people would magically disappear. And then there was a ghost or a fog behind the car. And then it's like the passenger side wasn't really the passenger side. It was really the driver's side. And I couldn't wrap my head around it.
yeah, it's crazy. So this, what I'm going to start with is the it's bag 5. So if you look on the labels that now, I thought these were Massachusetts State Police labels, the bar scan labels, but they're, I mean, he being Officer Buchanek, he was like, "Well, I don't know. I don't know how those labels are done." Um, So he kind of distanced himself from it. But this is a question that Lolly's asking of Ashley, and about the label for what becomes 7.6. So can you see with I do this with my mouse? Is that something you're seeing or no?
I can see it. Yeah. I like to tell people that if you're watching on your TV, it's not a fly. Don't smash your TV and send me the bill.
So there's this number 05 that's different on all these series. And then over here, there's this number. And on this one, it's a 4. Neither of these numbers translate into what the lab does with it. That this is actually 7-6. But if you this is the question that Lolly asks to Ashley.
That's exhibited in labeling that's being shown in Exhibit 271. That actually has an indication of who the submitting agency is and the date that the item was collected, correct?
Presumably, I don't know because that's not our lab's labeling system.
Oh, I don't know why you muted yourself. Why did you mute yourself? Hold on. Oh, it says you chose to mute yourself. Unmute unmute yourself on your side. See the little microphone at the bottom there? Wait, no, still can't hear you. Go down to your little picture at the bottom, like underneath the stream, and there's like a little microphone, and you just click the microphone. See how it has a slash through it? It says that you muted yourself. Wait, do you see it? It says I can't unmute your guest because, oh, where did she go? Allie's gone. Allie's gone. All right. Well, Allie's gonna come back. I have faith, so don't worry. Let's welcome all the new members while we're here. Jennifer Young, thank you for becoming a member. And Jimmy McNutty, thanks for becoming a member of Defense Diaries. And Mimi, thanks for becoming a member. Nikki, thank you. We welcome you. We both welcome you. Please pass the pepper. Thanks for the 5. Day 5, your show. Lank admits Canton recruised themselves, right? Canton recruised themselves. Yuri flips the script on day 20, only recused from interviews. Am I wrong? No, you're not wrong from the Bronx. Hello, Bronx. You're not wrong. You're not wrong at all. Yuri said something like, oh yeah, we thought I assumed they just recused themselves or recruised themselves from interviews when asked why they towed the car back to the Canton PD, Sallyport, when they're the Milton Barracks are MSP and they're closer, first of all, to Dighton where they towed the car from. And also that's the MSP barracks, right? I know you will correct me in the chat if I'm wrong, but that's ridiculous. There's no such thing as a partial recusal, my friends. There's no such thing. So you're either recused off the case because of the conflict, because Kevin Albert is a Canton police officer and John O'Keefe's body was found on the lawn of his brother, Brian Albert, Boston police officer. There's your conflict. There's no such thing as a partial recusal. So you're absolutely not wrong. Magnolia Gypsy, thank you so much for Auntie Bev looked pretty upset at the end of day on Thursday. She did, didn't she? We'll see what's going to happen with that. Vincent says they probably had the dog cremated, no DNA risk. Not according to Nicole. Nicole says the dog's in Vermont and she knows exactly where the dog is. So that's weird. But a lot of people have theorized that. Thanks, Vanny Annie, for your super sticker. We appreciate you. Paige Arnold, the A team of attorneys, thanks for your super chat. We are blessed to have you both stream together. Maybe you can do one again afterwards, closing arguments. Yeah, I would love to. I would love to. We're just waiting for Allie to come back because she had a little technical difficulty there with the volume. So P. Lola's mom, thank you for your super chat. Wild Bev, I've seen, we covered that. Have seen the Sallyport video before Thursday? I don't know. We're still on that Sallyport video. I think that's where they ended on Thursday. So we're going to pick up with that again tomorrow after we hear the motion. First thing at 8:30 Eastern. Here she is. She's back. Hi.
All right. Bob just told me use different headphones and mute the site while I'm playing it. and that will solve the problem. But did you guys at least hear that the question he posed to her? Bob says it sounded terrible. The question he posed to her was, does this label tell you the date the evidence was collected? So,
Okay.
I mean, I don't need to play it again. I promise that's what he asked.
Okay. We believe you. We like receipts, but we totally believe you.
So then the second thing is that we look at what sorry, I
No,
know.
somebody says that. Sweating bullets is like, ha, I knew Bob would fix it. Yeah, hey,
Yeah.
Allie, you're back. You know, Bob can't stay away. He's probably right in the back room. Like he's in the back office.
And he's the one who's
Directing.
not good with technology, but he was and so then, all right. So one thing I do want to jump to, and this is going to be, it's kind of out of order, but it's going to put into perspective the like where the evidence is before it gets the label that Lolly was asking about. You know what? I'll save that. I'm going to share my little spreadsheet and just so I'll start talking like that
I
until
know you're so good. You did such a great job with that spreadsheet because my head was spinning during that testimony. I just found it so hard to pay attention. Ta-da.
Okay. So now this is just dealing with Ashley's testimony, the lab item numbers, the collection date, the collection agency. So, for example, 7-5, it was examined by Ashley on 2/2/23. So at first I was like, how did she examine it before they collected it? And then I realized it's a year after.
Right, 2023. I know. It didn't seem to nobody clarified that for me because I was
Right.
like, is it a typo? I mean, but it was her handwriting. So it was a whole year later that they even decided to even look at these taillight pieces. What?
Right. So now, although Lolly's question implies the understanding that the label, and when I say the label, I'm talking about the bar scan code, is the date of collection. I cross referenced it with the dog bag. So I'm sorry, with the clothing bag, that the clothing that we all know, there's no dispute, was definitely collected on January 29th. It also has a scan label date of 2/4. So clearly it is not always the collection date. Now, what is really strange, and actually that's going to be the other thing that I want to uh that I want to play for you, is that they, for whatever reason, all of the evidence that is discovered from the scene before, in the February 3rd, February 4th, and any time before that, because I'm not even sure if there is anything before that that's involved in the reconstruction of the taillight, which is all that matters. They put into evidence with just the label and the seal with the initials. So if we go back to, let's see.
Yeah, this is what we're getting at. I saw a question fly by here. Okay, let's put this in.
Okay. So is just, you've got the label here with the barcode, and then you've got the seal up top. The seal is always, should be properly initialed with the date of when that red seal was put on. And then somebody opens it up and seals it again. They use a different color or they use a different seal, and then they initial over their seal. And that's how you know who has entered it since. If this seal's broken and there's not, obviously that's going to be an issue with the chain of custody, and the evidence can be excluded. But if there's another thing on top of it and that's sealed, then you can actually say it hasn't been opened since this date. So this is the seal date, and to me that's really the only date that matters. But they put in the full bag for all the other evidence that we saw, where it says the date collected, the time collected, where it was found, who it was found by. And when you look at, I want to put in the take this to the part where they asked Ashley, he asks Ashley, is this the bag? And she responds very precariously about, kind of shocked. Oh, it's in my notes.
So for those of you who are listening and not watching, the white seal on the envelope says 2/4 of 2022, and then where it's taped, there's initials DMD, and looks like it's 2/9
It's
2022, or is that
actually
a 4?
it is. You
a
have to.
4?
It's the light and the thing. It is also
Okay.
a 4. Oh, I was trying to change it on our screen instead of on the actual on the actual stream.
Wait, did you want to put the spreadsheet back up?
No, I want to
Okay.
put in when he asks her about the bag. He's going to ask her about the pictures. Let's see.
That item as it is.
So you can't hear that
there
now,
are
right?
multiple pieces. Each
I can
piece
hear
will
it.
get
See, Bob
a
promised me
designator,
that
like
I
piece
could
A,
hear
piece
it,
B,
and I
piece C.
can't, and that's the
all this gets documented,
problem.
written down in my notes
Oh.
and in photographs.
Let me try it.
If any of those pieces look like they could possibly fit together, then I will look under the stereo zoom and see if they do.
All right. These items, as far as how
I looked at the photos and saw that it looked like it
All right, here it comes. She's going to look through it. He's going to ask her a question.
yes.
So what do you recognize those to be?
Item 7-5.
And is that how it was presented to you or shown to you as far as the evidence bag that you opened and the items that were contained within?
I mean, this is just a picture of the seal, not the entire bag, but yes.
So tell me she did not seem confused by that. She's like, I mean, you didn't give me the evidence bag.
Right. And, it's not just us who are confused by Lally's questions, it's the witnesses. I mean, let's face it, the guy doesn't know how to ask a question.
And I mean, I don't even think she was as confused about the question as she was about the fact that she didn't have the actual evidence bag.
Right.
Like, where is the evidence bag? All right, so I put the chart back up. So that was him showing her the picture for 7-5, which has the scan, the white label that says, like you said, was collected February 4th. And the agency was the Massachusetts State Police. The description that they wrote on the bag is, broken red piece of plastic. But when she brings it up, it's 3 small pieces of plastic. Now, that was part of, there is one piece from that 7.5 that fit into Karen Reed's taillight. None of the pieces fit together. So they were 3 separate pieces of red plastic. One of the pieces did fit into Karen Reed's actual taillight. So that's where people are saying, well, that's supposed to be the discovery that O'Hara made on January 29th, but that's not what O'Hara testified to. He said there were 6 to 7 pieces.
Mhm.
Now, 7.6, none of that is part of the taillight. 7.8, which was discovered according to, now this is me writing according to the sticker, but there was testimony from Trooper Buchanek that was collected on the 3rd, although we also don't have a piece of the taillight. And then on 7-9, he did testify this was collected on the 3rd. It's really also 3 pieces of clear plastic there, and it's not within the taillight. It has nothing to do with the taillight, but pieces from 4 fit within the pieces from 7-9 and 7-16 that also had nothing to do with the taillight. So it's like somebody else's, pieces that go together with each other that are just found on the street. I mean, you're dealing with a situation where it has snowed and someone, whether it's really the official plower, which Bob keeps telling me he didn't plow, or maybe a Higgins person typed plowed, right? With somebody seems to have moved snow from the middle of the street to the side of the street. I don't know how they're distinguishing random pieces of taillight and broken glass from anything that has to do with this accident. But I think the argument is that either what was collected on the 29th wasn't tested, or since it was not sealed until the 4th, there is literally no way to know who had access to it, if it's the same pieces, or what's going on.
Okay, so that's curious to me. So the CERT team, the Massachusetts State Police CERT team, right? And that was O'Hara, who I think was the witness they brought in for that.
Right.
Those pieces that were found on the 29th were the only pieces that were found by the CERT team, right? And they didn't come in until something like their whole team was assembled at like 5:41 p.m.
Correct. And I think the state must be calling. If they don't call another witness, O'Hara never identified the pieces picked up from on 129 as being associated with 7.5 or 7.6. Like, he said that there were 6 or 7 pieces. This is 3 pieces of red, 2 pieces of white, and there's not, like clean photos where you can say that those are the same pictures as the ones that were used, used to make up this 7-5 and 7-6. But all we know for sure, the bag was not sealed, closed, and locked in an evidence lab locker until 2/4 of 2022.
Well, we don't even know if they were locked in an evidence locker then, because now they're saying that Proctor, bulk submitted everything on March 14th.
Yeah,
So
there was.
although it's sealed on 2/4, he didn't really put them in there until March 14th. He gave them everything at once.
Yes,
I
I saw that today, and it was specifically, I was rewatching today the testimony that the cross that he just did, and so they know for sure, even though it's sealed and marked, that it was never actually put into some of it. It wasn't all these pieces. It was this 10 and 11 was the ones that he was specifically discussing. So 10 and 11, we have regular bags for. And if we want, I've got the numbers right here. I could pull it up, but if somebody wants to, but that one literally says it was picked up at 9:15 a.m. by Sergeant Buknick. And it was 6 pieces of black and red and clear plastic. It doesn't have a dash there. See how the ones earlier, they all have this dash. It didn't have a number, which I think might be how they know it didn't go into like the evidence locker. Because when I'm used to seeing an evidence log, a log from the police department, it's going to have, every time the locker gets open and someone takes it out, where it got moved to, and they assign it like its own number. See, like this 9 doesn't correlate with the 710, and it doesn't necessarily correlate with what's over here. So this is the second little, another ID. It's that smaller number under that we looked at under the date. And all of a sudden here, like it went from being 1, 2, 3, 4, you've got A and C. I don't know if someone's going to explain that. It's just something weird. It just seems kind of strange. And then for 7-Eleven, you don't have any sort of you don't have that other corresponding, corresponding number. Oh, because no, 10 did get an 09. So maybe that's not when they knew that one wasn't in the locker. At least that's what the defense said. And the expert said, the trooper said, no, I didn't know that was the case. But he's not saying I know it not to be the case. And I'm sure that they've got their receipts for that. But the pieces in 7.5, none of those matched with each other. And the fact that one piece of it fit into the total taillight, from all accounts, that could have been picked up on the 3rd. It could have been picked up on the 4th. Like, we don't know yet.
So where's the pieces of the taillight that were picked up on the 29th by the CERT team? They're
It
not
it
even.
it could in theory be in 7.5 and no one has said that yet. Or it could be that they didn't test it because it wasn't consistent, or who knows what. I think it seems based on his testimony, his again being Buchanan, that he has sort of described 7.8, 7.9, 7.10, like that he like that those are the pieces that he picked up before.
Mhm.
And I had another kind of sheet that I was looking at because I was kind of going back, like for example 7.9, it says it's broken glass end. Okay, so 7.9 was the one with 7.19. It's really bizarre. It's with the straw in the same bag with the straw. So Trooper Buchanan testified that they collected that on the 3rd. That's what his testimony was. The bag, again, it just says February 4, and that's the same as the seal date. Now, there is no reason why the bag would be not sealed immediately right away. That is, I have never seen evidence get collected. And Lolly is, if someone is telling me that Lolly does not know that 7.5 and 7.6 are supposedly collected on the 29th, to him asking his own expert that the collection date is February 4th. That's what he asked her. He said, this label tells us it was collected on the 4th. And she was like, well, presumably, but I didn't handle that's not my label. So why is Lolly asking the question if this is evidence that was collected on the 29th? It just it doesn't make any.
Because none of the pieces that were found on the 29th fit into the puzzle that she reassembled the taillight.
Well, but if 7.5 ends up being something that was collected on the 29th, then it did fit into it.
But if all the labels are wrong, then how can we trust anything that the the prosecution says?
So the theory is, could 7.5 and 7.6 be what was collected on the 129? I'm going to bring us back to the question that Lolly is asking, because if that's the case, why is he asking if it was collected? Shit, damn it, I keep doing the wrong thing.
That's okay. Just find it. We're here. Okay.
6/22/32. 6.
Because if she didn't testify that she used any of the pieces collected on January 29th in her reassembly of this taillight.
Well, she just testified she used pieces from 7-5,
Okay.
which, according to Lolly, 6/22/32. Is that where I'm at? Whoops.
That's exhibited in labeling that's being shown in Exhibit 271, that actually has an indication of who the submitting agency is and the date that the item was collected, correct?
Presumably, I don't know because that's not our lab's labeling system.
So that's where I'm saying he is asking her if this label right here, he's like, that tells us it was collected on 2/4. Why in the hell, if we're supposed to believe, and I think that's what people are saying, that, well, it was it's 7.5 and 7.6.
Wait, hit the pause on your end so you're not talking over her and we can hear you better.
Oh, see,
That's okay.
that's where I can't tell if that's even playing because this
Oh,
weird
you
headphone
can't hear it.
situation. Right. Why is he asking her to if it's on 2/4? That it makes no logical sense. But the testimony of O'Hara, like, I went through that, and he tried to say, he said it was 6 or 7 pieces of taillight. That was first what he said.
Mhm.
If what is trying to be argued out in the public becomes what's being argued in the courtroom, despite Lolly asking his own witness, this tells us it was collected on 2/4. And I know that that's wrong. Like I said, I know that that's not right because so did the one collected by the shirt. but you would assume that Lolly knows the significance. If there is any evidence on 129 that is within that taillight, made up that reconstruction, he surely, that's like right on his mind. He is not messing that up and saying, like the collection date is the date on the sticker 2/4. Like you would think he would have done the exact opposite.
You would think, but I'm not putting anything past this guy at this point.
Right. But so in my mind, even if it ends up that they put on evidence that that those pieces of 7.5 came from the cert search, the bag wasn't even closed. It wasn't even closed until 2/4.
I would say the bag speaks for itself. I mean, if it's mislabeled, that's on them. Is there anything? Well, first here, the Poulani Casey says, I'm confused. There's a bunch of random apparent red, clear, and black plastic that just didn't match.
Yeah, I mean, it's the public roadway, and if snow was all being shoveled towards the curb, I mean, you could get random
Right.
taillight. There was a bunch of glass and plastic and things that had nothing to do with her taillight.
Right. The straw? Like, where's the straw?
And
where
why
does that
is
even
it
come in? Is there anything that says it was collected on January 29th?
No, there is absolutely positively nothing that says it was collected on January 29th. And unless they call somebody else, they literally have not established that. In theory, they could call, they called Buchanan and they asked him, are these the bags that you collected? All right, I want to show that because
Yeah,
it shows you at least what the other side is thinking. And
I don't know what they're thinking at this point.
No,
We're
I'm
all in the
turning
upside down.
what the defense is thinking about as far as those same as far as the same labeling. So, okay, here we go. Now, this is about the evidence bags from February 10th, and this is the cross-examination. So,
was that the one that Berkowitz found when he was just happened to be driving down the street? And then Buchanan says, I told my guys to go by there every day on their way to work and on their way home and see if any evidence has revealed itself. It's
no,
gonna
but that's
reveal itself.
no,
The
that's
evidence will reveal
February.
itself.
I thought that was crazy, and he's like, and you guys just happen to be there. You
And he
just
said it
happen.
with a straight face.
Yeah, he definitely tried to say it with a straight face. 2/16/37.
We are in the upside down.
We are.
And Eve said there wasn't a black straw in her drink at the bar. No, that could have been a coffee stirrer. That could have been a coffee stirrer from one of the troopers or one of the law enforcement officers that was drinking coffee on the scene. It could have been from anywhere.
Bob. Sorry.
No worries.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, yeah, and it was an unsecured crime scene, too, because, no big whoop.
I mean, but an unsecured evidence bag that's just sitting open that's a whole nother level. Like, I just don't know how it got even on, got this far for that. But here's him being asked about now, these are the bags that he brought, which are not, except they didn't give the numbers, so we don't even know what bags, what they correlate to. But here, let's listen to this.
Can you just full screen that on your end so we don't have to watch that chat, which is probably full of hate?
Oh,
There we go.
Obviously important to memorialize on the evidence bag or in some other way exactly where they're found, who found them, the date, time, etc. Correct?
We do the best we can to document all known information on each evidence item bagged at the time.
We're doing the best we can.
And in terms of the February 10th search, I want to just ask you a couple of quick questions about that evidence bag. Did you bag the items into a single evidence bag that you found that day, or do you recall?
I would have to see the bag. If you have those available, I'll take a look. I can answer.
Of course, permission. I think it's 310 that was entered into evidence yesterday. I'd like to explain that for a second.
Okay.
You can't hear them.
you're looking at a photograph of what was previously entered in evidence as 310. Can you see that from where you're at? I don't have the evidence back with me, so if you don't, I can certainly ask space.
So that's what I'm talking about. Where in the hell is this evidence bag? Why do they keep for 7.5, 7, all the other ones? Why do they keep just sticking in the label and the seal and not what's written on the bag itself? It's
Right.
crazy.
I
So
think
he-
on Cross, he had, like was asked by Jackson, "Did you measure where you found these pieces?" And he was just like, "Eh, we found so much stuff already by then. No, we didn't. We didn't do it.
Not
We didn't
only
do it."
that, he
No
didn't
big
write
whoop.
these. He didn't write these words.
Yeah, that's Proctor's handwriting.
He said he wouldn't confirm that it was Proctor's, but he said I didn't write it. So
We started calling this the Shaggy defense. The Shaggy. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. It wasn't
Right.
me. Maybe it was somebody else, but it wasn't me.
we
Like
got
Shaggy.
you on camera. Flip the video.
Yeah. Well, what are we doing here, people? Doesn't really matter. That it's not, that it's not so important that the records are accurate. I mean, going back to like day one of testimony when Sergeant Saroff came from the Canton PD and he was cross-examined that the dispatch logs were all wrong with regard to the time they showed up, the order in which the officers arrived, and the location on the dispatch record said 32 Fairview, not 34 Fairview, because people think maybe they were trying to distance themselves from Brian Albert's house. He said, it doesn't really matter if it's accurate because the most important thing is that we get dispatched to the scene. Meanwhile, the scene was wrong. So
But let's
nobody
hear-
cares.
Let's hear
Please,
this.
Please. Thank you.
Should make it easier.
He ends up saying I've got the picture, so he talks
Sergeant,
to
have you
him.
been able to familiarize yourself with that evidence bag?
With the photograph, yes.
Okay, thank you. Taking a look at that evidence bag, it has the information on it, has your name is collected by, correct?
Correct.
The date of collection is February 10th, is that right?
That's what it says, yes.
And it indicates multiple pieces of red, black, and clear plastic, right? It actually says 6 pieces of red, black, and clear plastic, correct?
That's correct.
But that is not an evidence bag that's filled out by you.
I did not fill that bag out, no.
As a matter of fact, that's to Proctor's handwriting,
I do not know what Trooper Proctor's handwriting is. I cannot confirm that that's his handwriting.
but it's not your handwriting.
It is not my handwriting, no.
So are you aware that this particular bag, that bag that contained those 6 items of plastic material that you already deemed was incredibly important to the investigation, was never going into any evidence until March 14th?
And that's what Melanie was just talking about.
I was not aware of that, no.
Guess you weren't prepped, sir.
Right.
If I may approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Bob fixed it.
Oh, you can hear it now? Yay, Bob.
He's like been over here at the side. So now he's
Did
gonna.
you ever draft a report yourself documenting the recovery of those 6?
I mean, this is bad enough. Like we could go on and on with that because he never
go for it.
He never documented. Well, it was from the other day. I mean, I'll keep it going, but this is him saying, I never wrote a report about finding evidence on the 3rd or on the 4th. A report wasn't written until November, which isn't that unusual when you're talking about. Oh wait, I forgot the. Wait, let me find it.
Here's some applause for Bob. Right. Pam Graham says, why have we not seen any of the photos that the tow truck driver took? Well, he's on the witness list. So he's going to testify and we will see. He's the only one who can authenticate those photos. If
The
there are
photos
any.
about how much snow there was at a given time.
The photos of her taillight, if the tow truck, every time, have you ever had AAA come tow your car or anybody come tow your car? They always take pictures of your car from every angle so that they're not blamed for any damage after the tow, right?
Right.
So, listen, they both had phones in their pocket. Why didn't Proctor or Buchanan take a photo of the damaged taillight in the driveway of her parents' house? It makes no sense.
Right. So now this I love. This is like, to me, it's proves every point. Now, first of all, we're dealing with clothes. Okay. Clothing that was wet, that needed to hang out to dry. So that makes some sense as to why it wouldn't have been placed into a bag until later. Unlike the pieces of like those should have been sealed and signed the day that they were collected.
Mhm.
But this just it speaks to everything that's wrong with the evidence, the chain of evidence, and the witnesses even understanding what they're getting up and telling this jury. And it happens in real time right in front of them. And it's, here we go. So he started by saying, you brought the,
I'm not going to ask you to open those. Don't worry
it's
about
like, yeah,
flooding up at this point. The bag on your left, which one is that? 437 or 438?
The bag on my left is 437.
437. Okay.
it's the evidence number, not
And
the
you
exhibit
indicated
number,
that those
sorry.
items were bagged after the clothing was dried and then ultimately processed in, logged in, correct?
Once the items dried, they were bagged and logged in, waiting process. Yes.
But you didn't personally do that.
No, I did not. No.
Matter of fact, looking at the bag on your right, what's been marked as exhibit 430.
A bag that looks like it might have had wet clothes in it.
That one has some writing on it, correct?
Yes, it has a lot of hand writing on it. Yes.
And that, whose handwriting is that?
I don't know.
You've seen Trooper Proctor's handwriting.
Funny. He thinks it's funny.
Correct.
Not 1,000 times, but
Does it look like his writing?
it says Trooper Proctor on it. But other than that, I do not know what Trooper Proctor's handwriting looks like.
It indicates that Trooper Proctor is the one that bagged that item, or those items up, correct?
Yes, this bag indicates that the item was collected by Trooper Proctor on 129
Right.
at 10.
And it says Brockton, correct?
Good Samaritan Hospital in Brockton. Yes,
That was, you just took the question out of my mouth. That's where Good Samaritan Hospital is, correct?
that's correct.
And there's a tag or a printed label, looks like a label maker of some sort.
Now they're
that
talking
is
about
on
that scan
physical
code
bag,
that we were
correct?
talking about. Okay.
Yes.
Before we get to that, what's the description on that bag in handwriting?
This, I'm sorry. Can you be specific as to description of what or
This is description. Read what it says.
description of enclosed evidence?
Correct.
It says 1 orange T-shirt, 1 gray long sleeve shirt.
Okay, so may I approach on it? Yes.
Now,
Before-
bear in mind, he had just testified one of the bags had the orange shirt and one of the bags had the gray shirt, which
And he
they
pulled
do.
him out and showed him.
Right.
Do that, just so I close this loop. What's the description on the bag to your left, the one that looks like it's less sprinkled?
Number 437.
Yes, if you repeat
Exhibit
the
number.
same clothing description.
The description of enclosed evidence states sweatshirt with recovered items inside container.
May I approach now?
Yes.
Thank you. Yesterday when you opened, I'll beat my voice up. Yesterday when you opened these two bags, this one, 437, has the gray sweatshirt in it. 438 has the orange T-shirt in it now, correct?
That's what was in the bag. Yes.
All right. However, the bag indicates at one point, this bag, 438, the physical bag I'm holding in my left hand, had both the sweatshirt and the T-shirt together, correct?
That's what the description is. I do not know if that was in case or in fact the case.
So we can't trust what's written on the evidence bags.
No. But
The
the
reason you
text
don't
said she
know is
got
because you
them
don't
and they
know
were
the
both
bag.
in the same bag.
Right. But this guy doesn't know. And the other evidence bag that had his name on it with the description of 6 pieces, he didn't write it. So how's he supposed to remember if that's really
Correct?
The reason I don't know is I wasn't present during the separation of those items, and I did not observe it taking place, nor was I made aware of how the items were separated or when.
You are aware, however, that tag that's on the label maker looking tag, the white tag that's on that bag indicates that indicates a date of February 4th, correct?
You'd have to bring that back up.
I'm sorry.
I didn't take note of that.
My fault.
So now the defense has a different explanation for the date on the sticker than Lolly's collection date, which we know is inaccurate.
May I, Your Honor? Yes. Let's direct your attention to the tag and the date associated with that tag.
The label maker tag does have the date February 4th, 2022 on bag number exhibit 438.
May I approach?
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
That's obviously 6 days after the item was actually recovered on the 29th, correct?
Yes, it is.
So that indicates, at least based on that tag, that item was not booked into evidence and processed until 6 days after it was actually recovered on the floor at Good Samaritan Hospital. Is that right?
The date indicates February 4th, 2022.
Right. And that date would be indicative, in your experience, of the date that is moved into processing by some other folks, the evidence sergeants or whomever, or the evidence officers rather, or whomever, correct?
I can't speak to their procedures as far as when they print the date. That day could be when they printed the label, but the bag might have been tagged otherwise. I do not know that.
But there's no other tag on that bag that suggests it's an earlier date, correct?
There's just that one tag from the label maker.
My question to you, if you know, sir, and you may not know, is what was happening to these items between January 29th, after you lost sight of them that night on the butcher paper, and February 4th, when that tag indicates that they were first processed?
To the best of my knowledge, those items were drying on the butcher paper.
Wait,
6
pause for 1
days.
second. I think I cracked the case, because you know how they use like used Solo cups and like a Stop and Shop bag to collect their evidence. Like, what's to say that the butcher paper was not used, and maybe it had been used to, as such, wrap pork, and maybe that's why they found the pig DNA, because the clothing was on the butcher paper that had been used to maybe wrap some pork.
I think you just
cracked the
cracked
case.
it wide open. So now
It's
he's
insane.
gonna, because Proctor is the lead investigator, you have his supervisor right now saying, who has access to the evidence before the label's put on and the dates collected.
How does
If
he
that's
not
what
know
the
his guy's
label
handwriting?
maker
He's
said.
been supervising this guy for how many years? He doesn't know his handwriting? I don't believe that either. So
Yeah.
right away, I'm not believing him.
Yeah.
And I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt when he took the stand. I'm like, maybe, he's a good guy. Maybe he's going to come in and he's going to be all, easy to believe. And, he's going to explain everything. But nope.
No, as much as he
lost me.
tries, and
Mhm.
but even he can't deny
It says
this.
yes for 6 days. They were soaking wet.
So
And those
okay.
would have been certainly accessible to and in the possession of the lead case officer in the case, was Trooper Proctor, right?
Yes, if Trooper Proctor needed to review those items, he would have access to those items. Absolutely.
And you're also
So
aware that the first actual log of any chain of custody for those items is March 14th, when they were finally submitted 6 weeks later to the crime lab.
That is not true. The first actual log of those items is when we collected them from the hospital.
Where's the log? I'm talking about
right then he goes into hell, but there's not an evidence log, and that's where I'm saying that's what I'm used to seeing. Once it gets logged, I mean, it's got a barcode for a reason. It's
Mhm.
not just a label maker. I mean, it's
Right.
a scan code. They scan it in, they scan it out. Somebody lays hands on it, they open up the locker, they scan it in, they scan it out. So there was no activity, clearly, from what at least we know, that by the question, the defense seems they're going to be able to show that that clothing, there was no activity of it ever being logged in or logged out or done anything with until March 14th, which it seems is dissimilar from all the other stuff. But
So, I mean, you could make a label, and you could maybe not put the label on the bag until a different day than it says on the label. Or you can, since it's handwritten, you could pretty much write whatever date you want on there. I mean, it's just, based on everything else that we've been watching, it just makes everything seem a little bit more sus to me. It's my
Yeah.
opinion.
And then I'm just going to put up the damn thing one more time, and try to whoop.
That's right. No chain of custody yet again. Like chain of fools, not chain of custody. I
So
don't see much of that.
I don't see anything that establishes that what was either, to me, what was found on 129 is random road taillight, like all these
Mhm.
other pieces that don't match, or it was there is no way to know what was put in that bag is what is in that bag as of May 4th when it is sealed and signed.
Right.
I mean, that's this
Oh,
bag.
wait, February 4th, right? It was
February
sealed,
4th,
allegedly
sorry.
sealed on February 4th, and then allegedly turned into the crime lab on March 14th, all at the
Right.
same time. The clothes, the pieces,
Right, but
except for the
whatever
stuff she
happened,
said she took from the car herself.
right?
Maureen said that, right?
She said that. She was very, very clear that
Yeah,
the
it wasn't
only
me. It wasn't me. I turned my stuff in right away. It wasn't me.
but the seal date is literally the only date that matters when you're trying to decide could whatever they're using, be planted. And as of right now, there is no evidence in this record till they call someone else that any pieces from 129 were included in the reconstruction of the taillight, unless they're going to establish that 7.5 is made up of 3, pieces of red plastic that came from the search that O'Hara did.
Mhm.
He did not testify to that.
Right.
There was 0 testimony that his pieces went into this bag. Like, yeah, just like they did with him. This is a bag that you brought and we're seeing the full bag. There's got to be some weird reason why all we're seeing on this 7.5 one, anything that was recovered, earlier,
Mhm.
allegedly, even before the 10th anyway, who picked it up, what time they picked it up, who laid their hands on it, where it came from,
It's just a
none of it.
mystery. It's part of the whole magical mystery of this whole entire case.
It is.
Let's
But
take a look. Wait, did you have more on that? Or I wanted to.
no, it's just basically all going through all so everyone can see that there's nothing here, nothing that even suggests either, January 29th or that there's any way to know that what was put in there January 29th is what it is.
So that could be anything or belong to any taillight, right? I mean, that's what people are theorizing.
No, absolutely. And there's a picture, and I don't know if I'll be able to think of it right now, but when you look at the tail light that they're showing the pictures in the snow, there are pieces from the 29th.
Mm-hmm.
No, not the 29th, from the ones that this witness put on Buchanan, where the pieces are sitting upright, like as if they've been either smushed over, right, and they went up on their side in that process, or placed into the snow. They're not
Mm-hmm.
on the bottom of the snow. And even though O'Hara testified, these items were found at the bottom of the snow. I know you wanted to talk about the shoe. I don't know if you've got a picture of that. I marked it somewhere in my notes. That shoe is not on the bottom of the ground. There is a
Right.
lot of snow underneath that shoe. If that shoe was on the ground when the snow fell, they should have been able to pull it up off of the street with
Here, wait, I think I have it here. Let me see. I gotta take this down first.
and I got it marked in my notes. It just ended up being
Somebody put this out on social, so I'm not gonna like say anything about its accuracy, or I think it's already been debunked. But if you look at this picture on the left, it's a still shot of John O'Keefe at CF McCarthy's, and you can see his left sneaker here. The sole is white. Then Buchanan pulls out the right shoe in court, the right sneaker only. Although there were pictures shown to Ashley of both sneakers, they were marked. They never showed them on the big screen. So the right shoe that Yuri pulls out in court has a white sole. He only pulled out one sneaker. And then it looks like the left shoe has a black sole, but a lot of people have pointed out that it's probably just a shadow. But then they showed
I
two
was
different.
looking at the white rim.
No, see the sole, how it looks
Yeah.
black, and then they put the Nike sneaker next to it, showing the Nike sneaker model with the black sole, and then this one has a white sole. But
I
that's
think
why I was like, why didn't Lally show the pictures to the jury of both
right, because
sneakers?
it must be a shadow. It's a very strange shadow, though.
Yeah,
It's a
it
very
is.
strange shadow.
But I think this is what you were talking about, the way that it was found. Is that the picture that you wanted? That's the one I
No, I
have.
think they took that. I think that was a picture afterwards. So I have it marked on day. Let me see what day we're at. On day 19. Actually, I have day 19 up, I think. So, where's that? No. Day 19 at okay, 5408.
All right, well, you
Sneaker.
deal with that. I'll thank some of these people who sent us some super chats. Gen X Chick, thanks for the 5. I assume Lally will get up during redirect and attempt to make everything okay with the mirrored video. Yeah, we might take a look at that as well. Tracy, thanks for your super chat. The MSP union protects Proctor. If he's found to be corrupt, it opens up the Brian Walsh's murder. Yep, he was the lead on that too. Yep. Jen Hoffa, we really need an I am outraged merch. Put me on the list. I know. we have emojis in my chat for the members. Put up some of those we are outraged emojis. As soon as you have that up, Allie, I'll share
I
the
got it.
screen.
I got it.
Mimi says, thanks, Mimi from Canada. Love you, ladies. Melanie, please cover the recusal of Bev hearing and why everyone calls her Auntie Bev on this stream. Yeah, well, so for those of you who don't know, I did a whole show on that. It's in my playlist. But so apparently, one of the McCabe's, I think it was Sean McCabe, was speaking to a journalist slash vlogger who's been in some side drama with regard to this case. And, you know, a lot of people think brought a lot of attention to this case. His name's Aidan Carney. And Aidan said something to Sean McCabe, who's the brother of Matt McCabe, if you're keeping track. So what, you guys really have a line to the judge? You guys know the judge? And Sean McCabe said back to him in writing, oh, you mean Auntie Bev? Whose seaside cottage do you think we're going to bury your body under? And then it turns out the McCabes seemingly have a summer home very close to the Cape Cod home of the judge, Bev Canoni, and that they even use the same very small beach access to get to the beach.
Wait, so who does that? Because I was looking at this video.
McCabe.
The Nicole or
McCabe's.
just McCabe's
The McCabe
specifically?
family has
They-
a beach home, maybe, perhaps in the same little area of Cape Cod that the judge does.
Mm.
And then there were some Venmo receipts showing from Julie Nagel, who was a witness in this case. It says there was from Julie Nagel to her brother Ryan, who's also a witness, the
Right.
Venmo transaction. And in the little memo, it says for Frank and Beverly, but it spells Beverly, Beverley. That was part of the motion. And she said, well, that's not the name. That's not the way I spell my name anyway, although her husband's name happens to be Frank. And then she
Shut
said,
up.
I swear. And then she said, but we never have rented out our house on the Cape, ever, ever, ever. So no, I'm not going to recuse myself. Thank you. Goodbye. Sit down. Yeah.
I mean, I can't speak to that, but that's crazy.
The family roots of Canton are pretty twisted and deep.
So like, we can even see here before we get to the sneaker. So he did a lot of testifying, and I'm not going to make us, we've been on for a long time already, but I'll just let you know, like he said, there were 6 to 7 pieces, all at ground level, all in fresh, clean snow. He claims that it was plowed so that any tail light in the road is now, so that was actually me saying in my notes that he's claiming.
So
it's
this is
plowed,
going
so
back to the CERT team, the first
this
people
is
to
the
find
CERT
tail
team
light
on 129.
the night of the 29th. And that was, what was his name? O'Hara? Kevin
Yes.
O'Hara? Okay.
Is that ground level?
No.
I mean,
Yeah. I
and-
mean, there's shovel marks next to it. Remember they brought their shovels
they
with them?
said that. So he can't say. And he also said, O'Hara said he was in the street. People would scoop their stuff up. They'd look through it. If they didn't see anything, they'd bring it over to the street. They'd dump it in the street.
Mhm.
He'd sift through it. Then he would take it to the other side of the street. How in the name of all that is whatever
Mhm.
does he know things were found at street level based on just that?
Mhm.
And then you got pictures, like if this is where they're taking the pictures, we know you weren't standing there looking and seeing that it was at street level, but let's just keep going.
We can't hear you at all.
The issue is I'm trying to move away from the podium.
I understand. So we need to.
Oh, we're going to turn
What's
off.
up on the screen is that
You can see the piece of table and
this particular piece, is this one of the larger or is this one of the smaller pieces? that
I
you described
mean,
earlier?
it's-
Estimated.
I didn't
It's
measure
crazy.
it.
All right, so now that's them. They're over there by the sneaker now,
Operation or search.
or this is their field thing. So here comes the
Maybe a little
sneaker.
difficult to see from a distance, but right here, this is the sneaker that we recovered.
And as far as the area of the curving, that you indicated that the sneaker was recovered in relation to where is that?
It's flush up against the curb.
Yeah, I'm sorry, using the.
How did they miss
I
that the
apologize.
day of when there was no
Right here,
snow?
This would be the curving right
Well,
here.
that's what they want you to believe,
Right.
that the Canton PD was incompetent.
So I'm gonna pause it.
Again, what-
There is definitely snow under that shoe. Yeah, we see the road, over here, things that have melted. They've been shoveling everything. But underneath this shoe, there is a significant amount of snow. The top of the thing is almost at curb level.
Mhm.
How does that happen if it was already laying there before any snowfall?
Well, here's the thing. They are trying to make us believe, they're going to gaslight us again into believing the Canton PD, who searched the scene between 6 and before 8 a.m., were able to find with their leaf blower, by the way, a clear cocktail drinking glass, clear pieces of glass, but they couldn't find 7 pieces of red tail light because they're incompetent. And they also couldn't find a black sneaker in the white snow. There was only 2 inches of snow when they searched. But when these guys searched, something like another 20 inches of snow had fallen. So which is it? Canton PD is incompetent? Then the scene is left unsecured because, the crime tape was like blowing all over. So it was useless, they said. It was unsecured between 8 a.m. and after 5 p.m. when the CERT team showed up. So much reasonable doubt that you could literally drive a truck through it.
Right.
And you're a defense attorney. I'm not. So what do you think about reasonable doubt? How much reasonable doubt are you seeing?
I mean, I think, especially with, like, God, I think I actually asked one of our mods, and she talked to somebody that was because I kept saying, what were they doing
Mhm.
when they're hearing about this inverted video and stuff? So she actually, now I just remembered it, that she actually followed up and talked to somebody. It was either Mandy or Dizzy. Of course, now I'm not going to find it. The faces.
I've heard that for a lot of this trial, the jury's been looking at the ceiling. Somebody had their head in their lap, and then they kind of perk up when the defense gets up to do some cross. But
Well, I guess
they've
it was a
checked out.
reporter she spoke to that was like that they seemed like they were outraged. Like it was 2 different things. This Mandy and Dizzy are probably like, why do we send this to you if you can't find it and say it? But that's definitely what it was, that the jurors were definitely outraged by that. But with the fact that if they were having some trouble, right, deciding that this is it is very hard to grasp. And I don't think that I'm necessarily there, that everyone in the house and every this and every that is all involved in this like conspiracy. But even short of that, if you're having trouble thinking, well, did the police really plan it? And did this happen? And then the Commonwealth puts on that video without saying a word. There's almost nothing they can do after the fact that can explain that away, because if you intended to be truthful with the jury, you would have done it right then and right there. And even if they don't fault the prosecutor for it, they surely now fault the supervisor of the very man who is seemingly, got his fingers in all of this. And there's like no explanation. Like, to me, I was never ever believing that the she intentionally hit him. Like, hey, I see him in my rear view and I'm going to go and I'm going to get him.
Right.
But I did think, is it possible that she hit him and she didn't realize it and she was drunk and she left? Yeah, I thought that was definitely a possibility.
Let me stop you for 1 second, because from the beginning, right away, when she was arrested, it was released to the media that law enforcement has ring video of the incident. And that's the story the media ran with. And you know how fast that goes. And so I thought that too. I'm like, oh, they have video of it. They have video of her
Right.
hitting him with her car. And that stuff is still out there. You can still find it. I've showed clips. And
I mean,
it's
there's
never
got
surfaced.
to
It was
be
an
ring.
outright lie. It just didn't happen.
He
They don't
did
have a video.
testify that a bird landing in front of their house would set off the ring camera. So, I mean, why did they ever have an explanation for what caused them to inaccurately report that, if it was supposed to be a mistake or something?
No. I mean, why did they upgrade her charges to murder? If none of these taillight pieces were even examined until February of 2023, why did they upgrade her charges to murder in June of 2022? They didn't even reassemble the taillight. They didn't have any DNA. They didn't even test the clothing, the pictures of the clothing. The clothing was not even photographed by the lab until around the same time, February of 2023. So what evidence did they have to upgrade her charges to murder?
I mean, it really doesn't make any sense. You're right. It doesn't. I've just, like I said, been trying to stay open-minded and go based off of what is happening in the courtroom. But when you look at things like that, like what prompted you, the only thing that could have prompted them, they talked like how they ended up at the Aruba, as I know Bob was always calling
Aruba. Yeah.
the Aruba people days afterwards. But in a normal person's mind, that is not enough for someone to kill someone
No.
anyway. So I don't know. It's just
Well, people say that we're going to hear some very explosive voicemails that she left him that evening. So we
I
haven't
could
seen those in yet.
that will never convince me one way or the other of
Have you ever
anything.
left a voicemail you wish you could retract them?
I mean, you get mad at your boyfriend,
Mhm.
your husband, whatever, especially if you're drinking, especially if they're staying out late and you don't want them to be, and you're already suspicious, not feeling secure in his, ability to be a good boy. I, I mean, that is, you don't kill someone for
And he
that.
wasn't responding.
And
And
you've
so
got a
she got angrier
woman.
and angrier probably as the night went on. But again, if she killed him intentionally, why would she be leaving him nasty voicemails after she did that? Doesn't make any sense.
Zero sense. It's like,
Strange credulity.
to me, it
It's
helps.
like, you're an
It
effing
helps the
a-hole.
defense.
All you do is use me. You're cheating on me. Click. And then call back again and start screaming again. And I'm sure it ramps up the more he's ignoring her in her mind, right?
Yeah.
How much
no,
time do you
that
have? Can we go through some of these super chats? I don't want to keep you
for
forever.
sure, for sure. I think it definitely plays against them, those chats. I mean, that voicemail. I never understood why they were.
Yeah. I can't wait to hear them because they think they're going to be so explosive. Fun size. Thanks for the super chat. Is there a full week of court or what days is there no court this week? No wonder this trial is taking 1,579 days to complete. Thank you, ladies. There will be full days of court every day this week, and I think abbreviated lunches, except for Tuesday. No court on Tuesday at all. Earbuds in the kitchen. Thanks for your super chat. Regarding Dr. Marie Russell, Google LA Times, one of a kind trauma doctor. 2000 article about her background as a unique wound expert. That's interesting. So she's been around for at least 23 years, and she seems to be the expert on wounds. And hopefully, the judge is not going to preclude that testimony. I don't think she should, but I've seen this judge do a lot of crazy things. Albert, thank you. The inverted video Lally brought in showing Karen's SUV being brought into the Sallyport, one doorway. Oh, we looked at that one already.
No,
Oh,
but
one.
he is explaining. That's what I wasn't sure. That
Okay.
they're explaining that outside one doorway it was dark, and it's so not what I was thinking with the dark
Oh.
and the light video, and that's what I was wondering, and I'll have to look at it again, but that it's like dead of night while the other is windy and daylight. But I'm still not sure. He's saying that's all in the inverted video, so I'll have to look at it again.
Yeah, that whole thing was just crazy to me. Like, how could they even show that? It was embarrassing. Debbie, thanks for the 10. Aussie Insider made a point about the timestamps on the Sallyport video at the end of her video about the flipped video. She made a great point. I suggest checking it out. Yes, for those of you who have not followed Aussie Insider, go do it. I was actually going to pull up her video and play it, but there's music and it could strike me, so I could play it without the audio for parts of it. And I think she does show like what they showed in court, and then she flips it around to see what it actually is. And maybe, I don't know, Allie, if you have time, or we can do that another night.
Right. And I to be perfectly honest, I do think, and I talked to Melanie a little bit about this, that if they used the internal software to flip it, I don't think that
Mhm.
the date, the timestamp would be inverted. If they did what Aussie did, yeah, that if you're doing it using something after the fact, then it's going to invert everything. But if it's like if I can go into my settings right now into my camera and say mirror my appearance, I just flipped myself.
Mhm.
You can see Defense Diaries in the back is now. So if they used an internal system to do that, I think the internal system's timestamp would read normally.
So have you
Um,
ever seen surveillance video admitted in court that was mirrored like that?
no, that there is zero. I mean, like that's outrageous. That does not happen. I've never even known that they had the. I mean, I guess it's just because it's nothing that I've ever thought about to think, why would they have that capability? But no. And that means somebody had to go in. I mean, let them try. I mean, I'm sure the only answer is going to have to be, oh, I clicked just like me. I clicked that wrong button. I didn't know. Oh, it's so stupid. But the witness knew, and the
Mhm.
Commonwealth should have damn well know. I think they did know. I think that they knew, or at least the investigative line, they most assuredly knew, because those other photographs that they took from other angles on different days, they tried to make it look as though it was the same picture you were seeing in the inverted thing. Like the way that even the caution tape hung. They were trying to put a mental implant, like put in your mind, oh yeah, that looks exactly like it did in that video. And you can't tell me that 40 minutes was missing up until now I forget what day, but very close, like a week and a half, 2 weeks before trial.
April 24th is when he said he went to Canton PD to collect that video.
Like that's a new one. So before that, 40 minutes were missing. So why is there 40 minutes missing? Now you've got the whole thing and it's inverted with splices missing. Like, you know, he's got an obligation as the prosecutor to at least, you know, look into it and try, like, you're not asking someone, how in the hell did you guys send me, you know, something with 40 minutes? And I don't understand, like 40 minutes. Have we seen anything that started at 5:50? What the hell were they looking at in 40 minutes in? We haven't gotten, this thing hasn't been going for even 40 minutes from what we've seen. So I don't know what was on that first video at all.
I mean, I was so confused when they started showing it. I'm like, okay, why is the guy getting out of the passenger side, right? And I noticed the number 4 is backwards, and people in the chat are saying, why is the number 4 backwards on
two people in the car?
I was like, why? That's what I thought. I'm like, why is he getting out of the passenger side? Then I'm looking at that taillight, which is supposed to make us think it's the passenger side. And I'm like, well, it looks like there's a piece of white in there. Maybe that is a chunk missing from the taillight. And I'm starting to doubt myself. I'm like, maybe that's a piece missing. And then they keep going. Is this a fair and accurate representation? Yeah, it is. And then during cross is the only time it's brought out that it's not a fair and accurate representation. And Yuri's like, well, yeah, it's a mirror. So when you look in the mirror, you're seeing yourself. Dude, what?
No. Not, I mean, for him to underplay it like that, I think, you know, but I do think that no, I forget what I was going to say. I had something in my mind, but let's stop. We'll just keep reading.
Julie, thanks for the super chat. This is a lot like Zachariah Anderson trial and ultimate wrong conviction. Have prosecutors always been like this? Kenosha County, Wisconsin passes around a trophy every month for convictions, not justice.
I mean, I think they've always been like this. Back in now, I'm from the East Coast. I'm from Philadelphia, so I moved to the Midwest, and in one county over, and I'm not going to go. Well, maybe I don't know how many counties over, but there's a county around here that way back they used to give an award. This is what I've been told. I have no personal knowledge of it, but to the prosecutor who prosecuted the most Black people. And they had some like. That person, I mean, this is a long time ago, but still that's like never, you know, I guess when everyone out here was racist, but the fact that something like that's going on in courthouses, we know how long it takes for, you know, people's minds to change. And we're seeing what's been hidden, you know, in people more these days. I think they've always been this way. And it's just that, just like we don't find our serial killers because they're, you know, hiding. It's, you know, like this kind of thing comes to light
on Long Island.
It's just, it's too many things. It's, I don't, if they're all hiding this, if it's everything that we think it is, I don't know, but there's definitely an insane amount of, it's crazy. I can't even. I haven't quite wrapped my mind around all of it.
Trishy, thanks for your super chat. I've heard there are 2 lawyers on the jury. Could that be the reason for no basis for objections? They could guess why and share insight and knowledge. Hi from Canada. I don't think so.
No,
I don't think so. Thanks for your super chat, though. Corporate America, thanks for your super chat. Love your channel, Melanie. What do you think about the possibility that John was in the house, a fight ensued, the dog attacked John as well? I mean, that's what a lot of people think. And listen, we've talked about this a lot. That side door that Karen says she saw him go up to, there's the door into the house on the left. There's a door to the garage on the right. Maybe he went in the wrong door. Maybe somebody called him and said, go in the garage door. You know, maybe that way when everyone testified, you know, tell him the guy didn't come in the house, or we did not see him come in the house. He did not come in the house. That's what they really meant. He didn't come in the house. He went in the garage. A lot of questions still. Crypto tax lawyer, thanks for the 20. Fellow lady lawyer, welcome. Switched from defense to tax 12 years ago. Do we know if Lally produced the normal unflipped video pre-trial? Defense seemed surprised. Was part of a motion in limine. Lally just answered. Y'all are great. Ali just answered. It's okay, good. So we answered that one already.
But we didn't. You and I were both talking about trying to find if they ever played the actual video pretrial, and I don't think they did. They just spoke to the fact that there were 40
Yeah,
minutes.
and I think she said she would take it home over the weekend and watch it, I think, if I recall correctly. There was a lot of video pre-trial
Yep.
and those motions in limine. Brooklyn Janet, thanks for the 10. Jen McCabe looks so sus. Will Celebrate technology prove she Googled at 2:27 a.m.? How long does it take your body to die in the cold? I think the case, if so, I think the case is over. Talk about Celebrate.
I'll give you a quick answer because to me, who in all my drug cases, obviously Celebrate is a huge thing. And it's in the murder cases too, because I've had cases that relied on like, when people were talking to each other, things like that. I have never, ever, ever even known it was a possibility that one of the search entries on the computer could be wrong. I'm aware of the fact that they've got to check like a lot of different settings and daylight savings time and to get everything to Greenwich Mean Time, like a standard universal time, and that everything could be off if they don't do that right. So I really was dug in and tried to do a lot of research on how this could happen. And even if you accept as true what the prosecution is saying, which I'm not 100% sure because apparently the one article I read, which I didn't know at the time, ended up being who this prosecution is calling.
Oh,
It
really?
wasn't about this case. He just was
Whiffen?
talking about it in general. He was
That's
saying
funny.
how this certain database through Safari that you could do a search on your cell phone. You go into Safari and it's right now we'll just say 6:00 and I do a search. And then I open up the very same window and I do a different search, that it is possible that that second search could get the 6:00 time. But here, that is not what happened. What are the two times? 6 what and 6 what? 6.
Like there's like the 2:27, then there's like 6:24 and 6:25, let's say.
Okay, I think it's 6:24 and 6:30 something. But the 6:24 search didn't get the 2 a.m. time.
Right.
The 6:34 search got the 2 a.m. time. I couldn't even think of a world where ever this could happen. But
Mhm.
even if you're accepting this whole weird possibility that you open a window and it takes the other time, why in the hell is the very first search 6:24? Why isn't that the one that took
Mhm.
the wrong time? How does a future search skip that one? I'm going to skip the one that happened just before it. I'm going to go up and take one from 2:27.
Well,
And
because she
also,
misspelled it, and then when she spelled it the same way she's misspelled it the first time at 2:27, that's why. Because when she Googled it first in the morning, she spelled it wrong again, but in a different way than she had spelled it at 2:27.
right, but that doesn't explain their
No.
theory that it takes the earlier time, because then
Right.
her one at 6:34 would have taken the 6:24 time. And
Mhm.
the one that was
Right.
not house, but the other one that didn't
Mhm.
match would have taken the 2 a.m. time. So there's I can't think there's any explanation for it. Plus, in the little like scenario he was drawing up in his thing that he was putting together for just general people to know, everything was happening 5 minutes apart, 10 minutes apart. There wasn't something that was like 4 hours apart. So I'll be paying very, very close attention. To me, obviously, that ends it all. I think
Right.
for everybody, that ends it all. Because when we went into this, I actually thought, well, if your friend's calling you, telling someone's like, I dropped him off at your house and no one has seen him, you might be concerned that he died that he was out in the cold and died. That's not what but no one's saying that. So that's clear. If that's what
No.
happened, that would be a very, but they're saying, no, I didn't do this 2:27 search. And
Right. And I didn't delete it either.
right. But I think it's more of a Safari issue than a Celebrate issue. But Celebrate should be able to say, well, we've got workarounds. We've checked all these, because that was the other thing I was looking at. There seems to be other things you can look at so that it does tell you that is the accurate time for that thing in other settings. And that should be a Celebrate person, but I'm surely they're
Yep.
not going to say our technology that is used in every courtroom
Mhm.
around the country and
Right.
so many people are convicted on could be wrong.
Yeah, that's gonna open up a whole can of worms for cases everywhere, which
Yeah.
is a little crazy. Peyton, thanks for the 10. This SUV had to be in the Sallyport prior to Friday's video. The outline of the snow is the same size as the SUV. Thought the Sallyport was heated. The crime scene tape didn't come off the roll.
I mean, Bob and I looked at that thing and he pointed out the snow on the ground. And I was like, because I was like, why is there so much snow gathering
Mhm.
in the other bay? Like that door has been open a really long time. And a car that already had snow on it has now driven across it. So, and that car had a lot of snow, wasn't just a little snow. So
Right. Did they move it in and then move it back out so they could get the video to match up with the time that they wanted it to say? I have questions. Thanks, Nancy, for the 10. I'm so glad I joined this channel. Really enjoy and learn from your commentary. Thank you so much. Franco Cimino is joining us all the way from Napoli. Italy is in the house, my friends. Thanks, Franco, who tipped off the Bryans of the preservation order. Ciao from Napoli. Yeah, I mean, they both destroy their phones on the same day. And the day before they get served with the preservation order. We don't know.
it's really, I mean, maybe it was a butt, a double butt destruction.
Right, butt destruction. Somebody said they should name the movie of this trial Booty Calls. That would be a great name for the movie.
Yes,
Mary
it
Malarkey,
would.
thank you for the 10. Glad I found you, ladies. Two brilliant legal minds. Sean McDonough posted a picture of the female in the Sallyport video, suggesting she could be Chief Rafferty. If so, can you imagine? I believe it is a woman named Dever, and I think she's on MSP or Canton PD, and she's on the witness list, and she may have been there at the time. We'll find out.
On the
Thank you.
state's witness list?
I believe she's on the defense witness list.
That's
So
interesting.
we'll see. Yeah. I don't know if she works there anymore. Solomon Landscaping, thank you for the 5. And thanks to the mods who are always amazing. Bruce, thanks for the 5. Remember when the search officer testified, there were 3 people there that he did not know. Yeah, what's that about? How is the CERT team at the scene? This guy, Tully, says, I mean, not Tully, what was it? O'Hara. He's like, I'm the leader. I'm the team leader. The command post is in my
Who was
cruiser.
watching everything at every second to know that was found on the ground in the fresh snow.
And there's 3 guys there. I don't really know who they were. I think they were plainclothes law enforcement. I don't really know. I'm not really sure.
Bob keeps screaming about that same fact. He's outraged. He's like, what?
How do you not know who's on your crime scene?
It's just like people in plain clothes. So you could have had like the neighbor in there.
Could have been anybody. Could have been Brian Albert, and it could have been Brian Higgins. Thanks, Jen, for your super sticker. Rock Chalk is in the house. Hi, Rock Chalk. Thanks for gifting 5 memberships. You're so sweet. Chloe Albert's Revenge. Thanks for your super chat. There was a drink lid in one exhibit. Objection. Yeah, that round piece of plastic.
I thought they were trying to say that was he says that that's like something to do with the taillight. Like it's a piece that goes around and snaps in. It's I think hard to tell scale.
The big round piece we're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I wrote in my notes that when I re-listened today that he called it a circular, clear, malleable.
The malleable one, right? So it was
right. I thought he was trying to say like it's some kind of plastic that goes over. I just assumed it was something that could go over a light. I mean, I guess it
could be
if it's much smaller than I'm thinking. It could be a cup cover, like that women use to like keep somebody from putting something in their drink. Is that what he's talking about?
I don't know. It could have been. I don't know. Could have been like a drink lid, like a Starbucks cup lid. I mean, like a cold drink lid. They never really answered our questions, so who knows if we will ever.
I thought he was trying to say it was like a weird piece of plastic that went like over a certain part, not like the main part of the taillight, but maybe I'm wrong.
Like an interior piece that you wouldn't see. That redhead says, thanks to Super Chat. Actually, none of the glass matched the cocktail glass.
I was when you said that, I was starting to look at my notes because I thought none of the glass matched the cocktail glass. That's what I've got the notes because I was like, wait. So none of the glass.
I thought they said one piece did, but the rest of it didn't. So
matched a different piece, but none on the grill. I don't think.
None. Okay, so nothing on the bumper matched the cocktail glass. So the cocktail glass is not what cut up his arm. It's so like you have to be like really in the Twilight Zone to even try and figure out what they're trying to prove because we're 2 brilliant legal minds, as some people say, and we can't even figure it out.
So I wrote, so items, a clear piece of drinking glass, clear apparent glass pieces removed from the bumper. None of those matched it. Clear glass recovered from the ground and covered from the road. And they said on, I got to go down to my cross, but it was only one piece was consistent with a piece of glass found on the ground. So
Oh,
nothing from the bumper, none of the other materials there was a match to. There was a physical match to 6 pieces, but no match to the
the cup. He
the
called it a
cup.
cup, which confused me
Because
I'm
I
like,
think
it's
just because he
glass.
wanted to stop just saying glass so that it was easy,
Right.
you know. And then there were 6 pieces. So the 6 pieces were at one time with each other, but they were no physical match to the glass. And then the only one piece of E that came from 714 had, and she won't call it a match. She's very clear to keep saying, well, it has similar properties. Like
Right.
she's like, don't be calling a one piece of clear apparent glass with irregular broken edges. And that's the only one that nothing from the bumper, nothing from anywhere else matched the actual glass cup.
Okay, so there's some mystery glass on the bumper that we don't even know where it came from.
Correct.
And made it all the way in a blizzard, being towed back and forth to Dighton, or driving to Dighton and back to being towed back. Jennifer, thanks for the. I used to live in Canton. This case scares me. How do we protect ourselves from corruption like this? Karen Reed had the money to fight. Most people don't. I've been saying that for a long time. She'd still be sitting in a jail cell like Richard Allen if she didn't have the money to be able to fight this and post $100,000. I don't know if Richard Allen was offered bail and he couldn't make bail, or if
No, he
just,
was denied bail.
oh, well, she'd still be sitting there if she didn't have the 100,000 that they asked her to post. So you're right. I don't know how we protect ourselves from corruption like this. My miracle mama, thank you. I love Melanie. I love the collab. Won't there be an expert to say the taillight can't shatter from this impact? It'll all be moot. No. I mean, yeah, I
Do you
think
see
that one of the
taillight shattering in your civil cases?
Yeah, no. I mean, not when hitting a soft body. So yeah, the accident reconstructionists are going to say, well, we know what they're going to say. The FBI hired reconstructionists who are going to say a car did not hit John O'Keefe and John O'Keefe was not hit by a car. And that's what they're going to say. That's why this motion also, Lally says you shouldn't allow those witnesses in because we don't have a report. But that's BS because all of the federal materials that were turned over to both sides during the TUI process and the U.S. attorney getting involved, they both have those reports. So that's also disingenuous. But that's what those PhD experts are going to say. Ruby, thanks for the 10. If pieces from CERT 129 were not sealed and logged on 129, and Proctor had access to them until 2-4, like he did with the clothing, forgot about it being proof it wasn't planted by Proctor between 129 and 2-4.
I mean, that is absolutely what I spent way too many hours figuring. Again, either it's random road taillight that was found on the 29th that wasn't even examined by the woman who put the taillight together, or there is no way to know between 129 and 2-4 what was put in that bag.
Or some people just put some pieces of taillight there to be found that, didn't match anything because we don't even know. I don't even think anybody's testified that it actually belonged to the actual Lexus. Right?
Technically, yeah, the taillight she recreated, if you go off of Maureen H., the first woman who says, I took it out, but really a guy from Canton PD helped me because I couldn't actually pull it, but I removed that from her vehicle, and then that was delivered to Ashley. Then Ashley put all the different pieces together, and she almost rebuilt the whole taillight, except for that big chunk that I think is that same chunk that was, there's definitely a piece missing when the car is backing out after she hits John's car. So, and that's why he made such a big deal of that. He kept saying, so, and everyone's like, why is Allison saying that's like a mic drop moment? I'm like, because she recreated the entire taillight except the piece that was likely dropped in the driveway when it broke the first time, when it really broke.
I think the jury's over it. I think they've heard enough. I really do. All eyes on Delphi. Thank you. If it's true Karen left voicemails, at least she left them. Jen called John 7 times and knew to not bother leaving voicemails. Yeah. She butt dialed and hung up before it even picked up.
She butt dialed and butt hung up.
A lot of people think that they were trying to find his phone. That's what people say.
Yeah.
Corporate America, thank you. If Karen gets off, does the O'Keefe family have a solid civil suit based on the investigation or lack thereof? I feel so terrible for that family.
I've never
civil-
actually heard them. The state is, if it's just a lack of like a bad explanation, then they are going to have, my brain's done. What's the word when they're protected from that?
immunity.
Immunity. They're going to
Mhm.
have governmental immunity for that.
Right.
And even for some kind of negligence, depending on what it is. But I
Yeah.
don't,
I mean, my question is, where's the motor vehicle accident report? Okay. In my state, you're involved in a car accident. There's a motor vehicle accident report that's filed with the DMV. There was none done in this case. So if they thought it was a car accident, why was there never a car accident, a motor vehicle accident report? And was there a case against her insurance company for hitting him with the car? Probably not. Because I don't think any claims adjuster would have paid out on that. So I have a
I
lot
don't
of,
even think that they're going to be able to prove she was drunk based on like the DUI cases I've handled and that extrapolation and the wide amount
Mhm.
of like of error,
Yeah,
range of error. Plus, he was very clear. If the time's wrong when she drank her last drink, this entire thing is garbage.
that's
Hot
right.
garbage.
Yeah. 0.13 to 0.29. That's a pretty
And
wide
that's
swing.
depending on her having that very last drink at 12:47.
Who's to say she didn't go home and start throwing back a couple more? Like Brian
I'm-
Higgins said, he went home and he had a couple more drinks and then he ate something and went to bed at 2 a.m. Like,
How
who's
do
to
you
say
stay
she
that
wasn't?
drunk at 5
Yeah.
a.m. from
Mhm.
12:30? I
Right.
mean,
Karen, thank you. I've been listening while working in the garden. First chance I've had to take off the dirty gloves and send my super chat. Thank you, Karen. I've been love the collab. You two are awesome. You're awesome, Karen. You're awesome.
Karen.
Erica, thanks for the 5. Listen to Lally's authentication question on mirrored video. It's about snow on the car, not the video as a whole. He knew. Oh, that's interesting.
It
We'll
is.
cover
He
that
was.
another time.
I did go back and listen, but he did also talk about specifically the was this on the left side and on the right side? So
He said the driveway. He said, was the driveway on the left or the right? But I think that Sallyport has doors on both sides. If
it
I'm
does. Yes.
right.
It
So
does.
that meant nothing to me. I didn't know what
Well,
he meant. He's not.
But it's really not on the side it was on. It's on the opposite side. So he definitely that was untrue. And then he just kept calling it the right side of the taillight, which was the left side. I kind of hated that Jackson started calling it what would be the right side instead of just saying the passenger side, the passenger
Right,
side.
right. The passenger
Because
side and the driver's side, that would have been easier. I
right.
agree.
And it would have shown that Lolly could have done that and that he used the right side on purpose instead of saying the passenger side.
Right. Yes. Erica, thank you. Listen to, we just did that one. That's the one we just did. Oksana, thank you for the 20. 2 powerhouse women attorneys reviewing evidence collected by Proctor and Yuri was not something they ever expected. I can imagine them watching right now and sweating bullets. Truth and transparency. Thanks for the 5. I heard the only lawyer is worth I can't see what that says.
Squirrel?
Is that
Oh,
what it is?
a turd, maybe.
Oh, I don't know. I can't. It's too small. My font is too small. And a buck. We're on this panel now. Let me bring the
Oh,
eye
it's
and
a
arm
squirrel.
candy. On a serious note, thank you, ladies. Thank you. Thank you, Truth and Transparency.
Oh, and if you haven't checked out her Truth and Transparency, she digs in. She gets a lot on this. So it's God, I wish Bob was here to tell me there was something that she pointed out that we talked about on the last stream that I was like, wow, for real? And I can't remember what it is. So I'm sorry that I can't, but I promise it was compelling.
Albert says the shaming of Jay has a good 5:31 Sallyport video. Play it if you can. I don't think we have time tonight, Albert,
No.
I'm
But
gonna
that's
have
who does all the coverage with Bob, the shaming of Jay. Jay, he's the courtroom jester and Bob's the lawyer. So
Oh, that's cool.
yeah.
Kitty, thanks. It says cannot thank you both enough, Allie and Mel. Well, thank you all for watching because we wouldn't have a show if you guys weren't listening to us. Tammy, Truth and Justice, thank you so much for your super sticker. Danielle, thanks for the 10. Lolliflop said in opening he has digital forensic evidence that Karen Reed reversed and the speed 24 miles an hour. How is that possible? What technology expert can determine that? I think that's going to have to do with the black box data from the Lexus, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's the one thing that I'm just like, we all watched Murdoch. They told us like every time his car did anything
Yep.
and I mean, like if they can't do that here, then sorry, everybody, Murdoch needs to get out of prison because all the
Right.
GPS data is wrong. All the phone data is wrong. All the black box data doesn't really work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think they did reverse engineering to figure out what time and what distance and what speed they needed it to happen at, to match whatever theory they have. But we'll see.
That's why we tell
Waiting for
people
that
don't
expert.
talk to the police, because when you do, even if you're innocent, they're going to just naturally, they're convinced you did it, build their timeline around when you are not otherwise accounted for.
Don't
So
talk to the police.
if they know, well, I'm saying she hit her, and so she had to be going really fast, but must not have been 20. If that's the magic number, and you're saying they reverse engineered, that's what they do, and
Yep.
it happens in different forms of that every day.
Excellent.
Oh,
Excellent
that's
advice.
the guy, Whiffen.
Tommy. Ian, yeah, Tommy, thanks for the 5. Ian Whiffen has a blog discounting the testimony Lally's asking him to testify to on his own website. Can't drop links, but Google him. That's what you're talking about, Allie, right?
That's the one I read, and that's where I'm saying, going based on what he's saying, it would have been the house to die in the cold would not have taken it. It would have been the earlier one that didn't match, would have gone at 227.
Right. It wouldn't revert to the later time. It would revert. Yeah.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Nora, thank you. Thanks for your sticker. Anonymous Canadian girl, thank you for thanking us and for your super chat. And she enjoys both of our coverage. Paul says on direct, the cop said he was the driver on the Sallyport video.
It's weird, but on cross, he said he thought it was the tow truck driver.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that does go into, like, that's what I thought, that Lolly specific, like him asking which driveway was it, he's reinforcing that that's really the driver's side by saying that this is on the whichever side of the driveway he said it was, when it's really on the other side. He's reinforcing by asking that what we're all looking at is the passenger side.
Yeah.
Because if it was on the other side, then we would all know, oh, so we're looking at the driver's side. So by having him falsely testify to which side of the driveway it's on, and I don't know how he answered that, how he's going to say, he being the trooper,
Buchanan.
that he answered that, because if he was being honest, he would have said, well, no, it's actually on the other side of the driveway.
Yeah. Suzanne, thanks for the 5. Devers left Canton PD and now is Boston PD. She's on the defense witness list, right? Thank you. Thank you for that. So that's interesting. She left Canton PD. So now who knows what she's going to say? That could be a smoking gun.
Yeah.
Emmy, thank you. So thank you both for your work and research on this case. Thank you, Emmy, for always being here. Horror Vibe 666. Commonwealth really thought inverted video would get past the defense.
The cops clearly did.
M&T's Yaya, thanks for the 20. Melanie, where's the sneaker from the hospital? Why only one shoe in evidence? The sneaker from the hospital is the one that they showed. It was, I believe, the left sneaker. The picture I showed before pointed it out, but whichever one that he held up in court was the one that they found in the hospital, because it was bagged that way, that they collected from the hospital. They showed pictures of the other sneaker to the witness, to, I believe it was Ashley, who photographed the clothing, I think, or Maureen.
And we just watched the video of the pictures of the CERT team. No, not the CERT team. Whatever team found, the CERT team that found the shoe, finding the shoe,
right,
with snow under it, and it elevated.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So they're both
standing upright when it snowed.
Yeah.
So that some got
right. All right, we've been here for over 2.5 hours. So thank you so much for your time. You have any closing thoughts? Take the full screen.
I don't. But I want to thank everybody, and this was really fun, and I love that. I love to be able to do this with Melanie, and you think about women and the picture that this tries to paint, that like she was so upset she had to kill this guy. She had her own house. She has her own money. She's already talking to other men. She's got other prospects. I mean, what day and age are people buying this motive? And, whether it's what we think happened, whether it's a full like conspiracy or what it is, I think we still don't know the truth yet. But even from the jump, like Melanie just pointing out, like, why they even charged this woman with murder before they had any evidence against her. And they were just so happy and easy to paint this picture of a woman scorn over nothing, a woman upset over nothing, No, thank you. She's got
Yeah.
job, opportunity, a house. She did not need to kill this man to get away from him.
That's right, because she probably made more money than he did. Well, now that you had closing thoughts, we had a couple more of these. We gotta thank everyone. Annie, thanks so much for says, can they bring up courtroom video to impeach? Because Trooper Buchanan would be impeached. No, but they can bring up what he said. He's still on the stand, remember? So he's back tomorrow. So Jackson can say, didn't you say in your direct testimony that you said this?
Oh,
Impeach him that way.
they're working on.
Oh,
Well,
yeah,
I'm sure
they're
they
working
already
all
had
weekend.
a whole bunch of stuff lined up to hit him with, but they're powwowing.
Mm-hmm. Sonia says, when she hits John's car and leaves, it has been said that the taillight would shatter and collapse inwards. So that may be why there was none on the snow. I've heard that too. Dana, thank you for your super sticker. And crypto tax lawyer. Lally pulled a Missy Elliott, put my thang down and flip it, reverse it. I think in song lyrics too. ML thinks I have a whole playlist for this trial because we've been adding songs to it every day. Everything from like Chain of Fools to like the Circus theme song to like the Benny Hill theme song. We've got some I Don't Remember, I Don't Recall by Peter Gabriel. We got Sledgehammer in there. We got like
Wow.
Who's Afraid of Little Old Me? We put some Taylor Swift in there. I think we were up to like
I'll have to
50
check it out.
songs. So to my moderators and your moderators, thank you for keeping our chat classy tonight. I know that this is a tough case to cover with regard to comments that can be vitriolic. I don't know if you see it on your channel, but my mods are quick
No, our mods are quick too. Like I don't
protect
see it.
us from those
So
people and things.
yeah, we try to get both sides. We love to get both
Yeah.
sides. We just don't like when anyone's attacking anyone for their, right
Yeah,
position.
but we've seen a lot of that, the personal attacks. But yeah, respectfully, disagree respectfully. It's cool. Otherwise, there's plenty of other channels where you can go to spew your hatred, as far as I'm concerned.
And I'm going to figure out where to post that. But we'll figure out if it's worth doing something with that spreadsheet.
Well, you can probably put it in the link to your video description, like a link to it if you want to, I would say.
Okay.
But also, will you come back and can we do this again?
Yeah, sure. Anytime. I mean, it was a lot of fun.
And then you can teach me about Delphi too.
Yeah, we'll
because
definitely
I think
have to
my
do
head
that.
might spin.
We'll have to have you on the next good like Delphi thing so you can start testing the waters, because I mean, even ignoring all the facts of it, it's very divisive like this is, which is why Bob was like, I don't want to get involved in like another divisive case where it's just emotionally like draining that everyone's attacking everyone on people's like just their position. But from a legal perspective, what's
Right.
going on is it's got the whole defense bar nationwide like up in arms.
Right. And that's the scary part about this. I mean, I've said since I started covering, like, Karen Reed could be you. Karen Reed could be me. She could be your sister, my sister, your daughter, my daughter, your
Yeah.
wife, your girlfriend. She could be any one of us. And that's why this is so scary.
And it is scary. I'd say, just to say one more thing, like even if you think Karen Reed hit him with the car, I can't imagine. In good faith, I don't understand how anyone, and I'm sorry for people who do feel this way, but how anyone can think she must have done it intentionally. Like based on the
Right.
information, even if you took everything and gave the prosecution the benefit of everything, there's literally no evidence that she wanted the man dead and killed him. That should be enough to get people outraged and angry to just charge someone with murder when there's no reason to do that, even if there's vehicular manslaughter or whatever the case may be. And that people still kind of dig in and are like, I know she murdered him on purpose. In the rear views, tried
Right.
before there's been any evidence of that.
Sped up.
Right.
Sped up and left him to die in the snow.
It's crazy. But yeah, I will let you, we'll keep in touch, and I think you'll get really interested in Delphi. It's a bad one.
I would love to. I can't wait. All right, everyone who watches my channel, I will be with you tomorrow at 8:30 in the morning for court to start to cover this case live. And then in the afternoon, special treat, Mark Betterow is going to come on live with me in the afternoon to go over the afternoon testimony. So I know you've been asking for that.
And I think Bob will either be on the Defense Diaries or the Shaming of Jay. So subscribe to both, because they alternate streams doing their doing our streaming stuff. And then Bob and I are also trying to do like short updates. And as you can see from what you and I have done today,
Never short.
and even with two lawyers, and Bob loves to talk even more than I do. I'm usually not the primary one like dragging everything out, but between the two of us, they go on. So we're gonna to work on whether we can really do a short recap. But
Mhm.
I'm often on the streaming day with Jay and Bob as well, and they bring some levity mixed with lawyering. So
Are you doing the recaps every night?
that's the plan. But
That's what you've been doing? Because you
we
stream it all
start
day and then you do it. Oh my, I'm so
we
exhausted by
did
the end of the day. I could
one,
never do it again at night.
and then the second one that we did was supposed to be a recap, and it was of a 3-hour trial day, and it went 3 hours plus
That's
because
funny.
we also covered the motion. I was like, we need to figure out a way where we can really keep it like an hour, because it's crazy. Stream all day, and then you don't need to do it twice, but if there's
Right.
legal stuff that there's a lot of legal stuff, you can't say all of it, like like during your
Mhm.
whole stream, things that you're like thinking of afterwards, and it's like because you're trying to keep things going. So we'll see if we keep doing that, but
All right, make sure you subscribe everywhere, my friends. Also hit the like button on your way out, because put your DNA on the like button, and we promise you that Trooper Proctor will not get a hold of it. And share the stream, do all the good stuff that YouTube likes. And thank you again to moderators, viewers, replay viewers, and everyone else. We love you so much. Peace out. Allie, hang out for 1 second so
all.
we can say goodbye in the back.
Will
Good night,
do.
everyone.